Welcome to Story Route Zero.
This is a podcast where friends gather to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and the strange worlds of video games. We often don't know where we're going, but that's half the fun. Come on the journey with us. Hit us up on Twitter at StoryRoute0. You can send us an email at StoryRoute0@gmail.com. That includes questions, concerns, comments, complaints, pet pics. Send us some recipes. Send us some stories about your day. We're going to listen.
Podcast, start your engines. We have liftoff. Let's have a journey.
My daddy was a bank robber, but he never hurt nobody. He just loved to live that way, and he loved to steal your money. Welcome to Story Route Zero, episode 48. My name is Matthew Keel. That was The Clash, their song Bank Robber off of the Black Market Clash EP. And this is the penultimate episode of our first season, y'all. I've got three friends with me, of course. The biggest Clemson fan I know, Michaela Crescione, representing Obelisk.co. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. That was a nice win this weekend.
31 points in the first quarter ain't bad any day.
No, you wouldn't kick that off the field. Are they number 2 yet or no?
No. They're because they have the loss to Notre Dame. They're going to stay at number 3.
Okay. Representing below the Mason-Dixon line, the stovetop pocket knife to my bell-bottom reggae. Moose Cool, how are you?
Doing well, man. Doing
Cool.
real well.
Cool. And Jason Marshall. How are you, sir?
Oh, I feel slighted.
I couldn't think of anything off the top of my head.
Man.
Sorry.
That's cold, isn't it?
Well,
It's
I said
cold.
I didn't want to do the de facto leader of this ship again because I did that last time.
Well, then
And-
that's fine.
And you know, sometimes my reserves are just shallow. So I apologize. How are you,
It's
sir?
all right. I'm doing well.
So, as I said before, this is the penultimate episode of our first season. We are starting our Game of the Year festivities this week. We are going to be doing categories.
Buckle up.
Yes, it's going to be a ride. But before we do that, how is everybody's weekend? Weekend. I think I said weekend. That's a different thing. Michaela, Clemson got a win.
Clemson got the W.
How'd your
after-
Patriots do?
They won, I
They
think.
won by like 3 points, but I didn't watch the second half because I kind of don't care. To be quite frank.
I mean, all right.
I had
mean,
other shit
you
to
know,
do, like, laundry. It's exciting, so.
Laundry, yes, laundry's exciting, sure. Right, yeah.
I got 2
doesn't-
platinums, though.
Bagel
Just
doesn't
to
even
throw that
believe
out
me.
there. 2 platinums in the last 24 hours.
Speaking of attrition, you finally got the Spider-Man platinum.
13
This is
crashes. Yep,
Moose,
and
how
I-
was your weekend? Thumbs up, thumbs down?
It was good.
Jason, how are the kids?
Alive. Nobody got injured.
No ER trips?
That's an
No ER
improvement.
trips. Yep, that's an improvement. Notre Dame won. The Giants won and are in first place at 4-7.
Love to see it out of the NFC East,
NFC least.
right?
Good weekend. Relaxing.
Patrick Mahomes looked really good, though, doesn't he?
Better
Jesus.
than Brady.
I mean, he looked at that when he won the Super Bowl against Brady. So full disclosure, I had a bit of a rough weekend for 2 reasons. One, I'm in the middle of 2 weeks straight because of the holiday, and that just sucks. I worked overnight last night, but I also got a piece of hard to take news for me. I don't know if I've gone into detail here, but I spent half of my childhood on my grandparents' farm. And I learned this weekend that the farmhouse is finally going to be torn down, which sucks. Lots of great memories. I miss my grandma Irene and I miss my Aunt Janice, but Nazaquane, yes, Circle of Life, all that. Also, this is the football I care about, so prepare to just glaze over. One of the greatest soccer players ever passed away at 60. Diego Armando Maradona from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Probably one of the best athletes I've ever actually had the privilege of watching play any sport. And I saw him at the very end of his career. I saw him score a goal in 1994 and then get kicked out of the 94 World Cup for testing positive for drugs. But this man was kind of a genius. You put a ball at his feet. He was built like a tiny little truck. He could take just about any abuse you threw at him, and he would almost never lose the ball. And he's also responsible for scoring two of the greatest goals in the history of the sport back to back in the same game during the 1986 World Cup. One of them is called the Hand of God because during he was on a break, passed it, I believe, to Jorge Valdano. Jorge Valdano popped it up, and he goes up and uses his forearm to hit it in. But this was the 80s where replay didn't exist in soccer, at least not for another 30-some years. And the refs called it a goal. He celebrated, sold it, and he's admitted since. But then right after that, he took the entire English squad, left them for dead as he dribbled through every single one of them to score an amazing goal like minutes later. Dude could play the game of soccer better than most in the history of the game, and may he rest in peace. He was a flawed genius, but a genius nonetheless. With that, let's get to our let's get to game of the year. Let's get happy, everyone. So much like we started this last year, we are doing categories, and then we will do our each individual top 10 games next episode. And then after that, we will take a break for the rest of this god-awful year that 2020 has been. And we will kick back off with a game club in 2021. So what we've got today are, we've got several categories. I'm going to list them real quick, then we'll get started. Jason, I'm going to let you just sort of run through that because you're better at keeping things organized than I am, if that's okay. Mm-hmm. Moose disagrees, apparently.
No. Like, a notification popped up on my computer. I'm like, I'm not even using Flash. Like, why are you trying to tell me I need to update? I'm not even using Flash. Like, sorry.
The video user.
For the listeners at home.
Moose is just fuck Jason Marshall.
I'm like, wow.
But he also had, like, I could tell on my tiny screen, there was also a bit of fear in those eyes because I was just like, what was about to happen? Anyway.
Well, I thought maybe it was going to crash everything. So that's why I was like, no. Anyways.
So we're going to start things off with Biggest Miss, which is sort of a game we were interested in but just didn't really hit. Most disappointing game. Favorite old game. Favorite combat. Favorite game mechanic. Favorite controls. Favorite boss fight. Favorite level. Favorite world/game setting, the biggest dork, the favorite new character not in Hades, then favorite Hades character, then best style, or how did you say it, Moose?
Style.
He says it better than me. Then it was
I don't know.
Then it's favorite moment, favorite score, favorite story, favorite indie, and we will close it out with our favorite game club game that we've all played together as Story Route Zero. Well, Michaela since Ghost of Tsushima, I believe. So let's get to it. Jason. take it
Biggest miss. Biggest miss for me. I got to review this. This was Neon City Riders. I wanted to like this game so much. I don't hate it, but it just didn't work. I know I reviewed games I didn't like, and I spelled that out. This was tough because something was there, but it just missed. There was an update. I tried it. It didn't help it. It just was one of those. I mean, it just looked so cool. It was like you were this rogue Casey Jones looking dude in the 80s beating up people, different gangs taking over. I mean, it just looked, it just seemed so cool, and it just wasn't. It wasn't cool. It was square.
Right. Cool.
Nothing, Michaela? No. Damn it.
Block it out. Just gonna work on my blank stare.
Just working on a poker face. Yep, but that was my biggest miss. Michaela?
Okay.
I got two here. An honorable mention kind of is like a cheap one. So Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition came out this year, and I had not played it when it was a Wii U game because I did not have a Wii U. So I'm going to count it because it came out in May.
That's fine.
And I had
We'll
enjoyed,
allow it.
yeah, I had enjoyed Xenoblade 2. So I was hoping I would really enjoy Xenoblade 1, and I will give this another chance at some point. I only played about the first 10 to 12 hours. And the side quests in that game are just horrible, I guess is the word. I found 45 of them in like the first couple hours. And they're all go here, kill 10 of these, or find 5 of these and bring it back. Fetch quests. And some of it's engineered by the fact that most enemies in the environment are not naturally aggressive. You have to initiate combat. So it like gives you a list of things to kill, because if you don't have a list to kill them, you might not. So it's just poorly designed side quest material, and an excess, like I kid you not, 45 side quests I found in the first like 3-4 hours top. So it was more than 10 side quests an hour that I was finding, which is insane. And then the other one I had was, so KH3 Remind DLC came out way back in January, and I thought the story was a bit of a miss there. I loved the boss fights that they added. Those were awesome. And I like that they use the story bit to kind of go back through and explain the ending or show a different perspective on the ending, which, spoilers, Sora kind of dies and they're kind of showing what led up to his death. But I was kind of hoping it would, instead of replay the ending, actually advance the story, because I've been waiting many moons for them to tell us what's in the goddamn box, and we still don't know what's in the frickin' box.
Oh, what's in the box?
What's in the box?
Is it Gwyneth Paltrow's head?
It might be a piece of string. I really don't know. So, yeah, I thought it was a missed opportunity to advance the story that we've actually been waiting on answers for, and we're just gonna keep waiting for another 7 years or whatever, probably at this point. So, yes, those are my two.
Or
No, just don't. You stay over there in
then?
the middle corner.
Any other honorable mentions?
No, those three are my two.
Moose.
Biggest miss. Ghost of Tsushima is number one for me. Just, I don't know. Like, I enjoyed the game at first, and then just, I also think it's the biggest miss because it's my problem. I had issues with the combat, but in talking with people in my circles, I'm not the only one that had issues with the combat. And so I don't feel like it's completely me. So I just feel like it's just something that didn't hit home with me. So I haven't even beaten the game. I do want to beat it and platinum it. I do want to go back to it and give it a second chance. So I'm looking forward to doing that in 2020. I mean 2021. Jesus, not 2020.
I mean, you have. I mean, after this, you will have a month of Mondays basically just ready, waiting for you.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
playing. Dude. I'm like.
You're
I'm
terrorizing
like,
Bolivia at this point.
yes. Well, I'm not terrorizing. I'm liberating Bolivia, which I wish I could talk about because Jason and I had some fun last night. But anyways, so that's number one, and then, so like in this category, I don't think like. I like biggest miss as in for like yourself, but I also like to think of like biggest miss as in like a developer or publisher not hitting the mark. And I think Super Mario 3D needs to be on that list. Like they could have did a better job of
3D
remastering
All
it.
Stars.
Yeah, yeah. And did it, I have it. I've played it. I played Super Mario 64, and I'm like, man, they could have just put this in the Odyssey engine and just had it run way better. Updated the camera. If they would have just like took their head out of their own fucking ass and actually invested some time to provide a good product for their customer instead of just being like, oh, it's an emulation, so here you go, and we're going to charge $60 for all 3 games. At least you get 3 games out of it.
Yeah.
I haven't played Mario Sunshine in like forever, and I loved that game. I was like one of the few people I knew at the time when it came out that liked that game. Like a lot of people hated it. Well, not hated, just were disappointed with it.
Yeah.
And then I have not played Galaxy, so I'm looking forward to playing that and watching some of the videos. It looks pretty much like a modern Mario, like maybe just a slight step down from Odyssey, obviously, because Odyssey is in a better engine. So I am looking forward to playing that, but I just think they could have did a better job with like presenting like a better remaster for their customers. You know what I mean? So those are my 2. I didn't have a third.
That
All right, for me, biggest miss, and I have 3. My number 1 is Mortal Shell, and this is completely a me thing. And I was actually talking to Ahmed about this earlier. Playing Mortal Shell was like the first time I played Demon Souls, where I'm fascinated by it. And I know that I'm like Jason was saying about Neon City Riders. I know that there's something here, and there's something that is worth going after. I just don't know if I want to. And I think that where in 2009 when I played Demon Souls for the first time, I was like, I'm not ready for this yet. I need to come back. And I eventually did. And it's one of my favorite games of all time. I will most likely keep slowly picking away at this game and attempting to get better, but like there's a lot of good here that is worth talking about, but for some reason every time I go in, I'm just like, it's just not there. And I don't think that's on the developers. I think the game plays fine, like, but it's just sometimes the game's just not for you. My 2 runners up are biggest miss not because I played them, but because I missed them. I did not play them despite owning both of them. And that is, I put maybe an hour into Hunt Showdown, but I won't consider that playing. And then I still have not touched Journey to a Savage Planet. So sorry, but those are probably going to be next year.
most disappointing. For me, it's Avengers.
Not surprised.
Every time, and it had nothing to do with, I mean, their focus on the marketplace was a little weird. They kind of went that, but that aside, it should have been like, oh, you get to play as different Avengers. But every time I picked it up, I'd play a little. The next day would be like, Jeff would be like, hey, you want to play Wildlands? Okay. Or Moose would be like, hey, let's play GTA Online. Okay. Like, I had no problem tearing away. Nothing. That game did nothing to pull me in for long sessions. I don't think I played longer than 45 minutes at any point with that game. I want to go back to it. I hear the player base is dwindling, but I hear when you get towards the end and you do some of the bigger like co-op stuff, it's cool. But like, I need a game that I can't have just the end be the cool stuff. Like I have to want to get to the end. Like, sure, it's an incentive, but if I'm dragging my feet to get there, it's gonna take me a long time to get there. Okay, Michaela?
I have one honorable mention, and it's Xenoblade Definitive for pretty much the reasons I already said. But like I said, I've also only played it for like 10 hours, so I need to give it another chance, and that will happen. I feel it in my bones. I will go back to this. But my number one most disappointing is one that I don't think I've even admitted to playing before on this show. Actually, I know I haven't. So I kind of played it knowing it was going to suck, but it was like a train wreck you had to watch. And it didn't disappoint in the fact that it was a train wreck. And I played Sakura Wars this year, and it was awful.
Oh, really?
So bad.
Oh, I watched gameplay of that. I think that game looks awesome, personally.
It looks better than it feels.
Okay.
Wait,
Like
what's the game?
So Sakura Wars is like a known like anime whole franchise thing in Japan that just very rarely has come west, and this is one of the first games in a very long time since like the Sega era of like consoles to actually get westernized. I mean, it's not westernized. It came to the West in terms of release. It's all Japanese voice acting and stuff like that. And I liked some of the characters. Like Hatsuo is my girl. I loved her. She's awesome. She's kind of like, if you know Ruby, she's kind of like the Yang of the group. But the mech combat looked kind of cool, but that's all it looks kind of cool. It's very much like a 2-button blah. Didn't really have much depth to it.
Okay.
Not a fun experience to play thing. So it's like a part like sim with a bunch of waifus and part mech game, and the mech part did not save it for me. So
isn't there a dating aspect to it as well?
there is a dating aspect to it as well. That's kind of the thing about Sakura Wars. So yeah, that game just didn't do it for me.
Moose? Or is that it?
Yeah.
Moose?
Ghost of Tsushima. That's a disappointing game.
So for the record, every category, Michaela's going to mention Xenoblade. Moose is going to mention Ghost.
No,
It's
gonna
I see your Xenoblade.
Listen,
Praise you a ghost.
Listen,
actually, there might be one.
listen. It's actually in some categories for some good. Okay, like I said, just combat at a certain point just got frustrating, and I'm just like, I can't. I think the problem is I played too much Dark Souls. That's the problem, and too much Bloodborne. And so, like, I'm trying to take a break from that stuff, except for maybe helping Razzie get his platinum and possibly doing some fight clubs. But other than that, I'm trying to stay away from those games so that when I come back to it, you know what I mean? Like, it's been a while, and I won't be so close to, like, oh, I can lock onto targets, and camera works a little bit better, and this, and, you know, just... So I want to have that distance from those games before I try it again. But, yeah, so... Anyways, had a lot of positive things to say about the game, setting, characters, like all that stuff. You know, the collectibles were a lot of fun. Just the exploration was awesome. And I think it has one of the best opening title scenes like ever, hands down. It was just freaking awesome. But like I said, it just, I don't know. I didn't finish it, and I had no drive to finish it. So that's why it was disappointing for me. So anyways. And that's all I had. that was the only one. I had no honorable mentions besides, see previous biggest misses.
Right.
But anyways.
Matt?
My most disappointing is one that it's probably just because I didn't give it enough time, and the time I gave it, I was in the wrong headspace. It might be more of a miss than a disappointing, but I don't know I'm going to go back to this one. Hardcore Mecha. I really liked the idea of this game. I really think it plays well, but ultimately, like, it's very much in the same way that Mortal Shell was a miss. the rules that it's laying out are not very easy. They're not very intuitive to learn, and I don't know if I want to put the effort in. So I'm disappointed that I don't want to put the effort in more than I see it as a miss. No honorable mentions.
Story Route Zero's biggest disappointment is not hearing about Melody of Memory on the show.
Yes.
Can't put it in any of my categories because I don't own it.
That's a lie.
Yeah,
I
it's a
don't.
lie.
You want to check my credit card statements?
You could Photoshop those. I don't believe you.
I can't Photoshop to save my life. Fine. all
I
right.
don't know that.
My
I don't know
Nintendo
that.
You
file
know,
and my
she's
Nintendo Switch
she's
profile.
just selling you the lie,
Yeah.
man. She's selling
Yeah.
the lie, man. I can't
mean-
Photoshop to save my life. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, right. Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
mhm, Yeah. Sure.
Uh-huh.
Great. Yeah. Of course you can. How do you know what Photoshop is or does?
I am a human being with eyes.
That's funny. That's
Favorite old game, and by our definition, this is circa before 2020.
Yeah.
So my two runner-ups are Moonlighter. I wish I played that when it came out.
Right.
Strange Brigade. I had an absolute blast finishing that with Matt. Like,
Oh, that game's so good.
it was such a fun co-op game. And my favorite old game is Wildlands. I've been putting in so much time in the
Fuck.
past month and a half. This game, like playing with Jeff, playing solo, playing with Moose, all three of us. You know,
Michaela, this is probably going to be all the shit that Jason gave Moose. Actually, I kind of chipped in on the giving Moose shit about Division 2. My hands are not clean here. I feel like we're going to be doing this to Jason in 2021.
Also, real quick, Jason and I, mostly me because I wrote it first, but he didn't edit it out, also gave Moose shit about the Division 2 in our PS5 review because you can see the playtime.
what?
It was
I
live
see
on
how
our
it is.
list as of last week.
Awesome.
Throwing me under the bus.
Moose, you made it in the article.
Okay, all right.
We're famous now.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
And for the record, you're not going to hear about it because once Ghost Recon's platinum, there's nothing to do. There's no bills to do. There's no nothing. You're done.
What, Wildlands?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. You do have a point.
So this ain't my Division 2. Relax there.
Hold your horses.
Okay.
Relax.
Well, I mean, there's always WoW.
Yeah.
Which noticeably absent from the old game list, Jason.
Is it but I don't know. For me, it's an ongoing game. It's constantly adding. So I didn't know if I really wanted to put it in there. I mean,
Okay.
if you wanted to,
That's
mean,
fine. It's your
I mean,
list, man. Do what you
the new
want.
the new expansion came out, so technically it excludes it at this point.
Okay.
But yes, if it was, you know what? If there was no new expansion, it probably would have been in there. But since it's new content, like paid content, it's not. All right, Michaela, favorite old game.
So runners up, Slay the Spire. Really enjoyed that. That it added the deck building to the roguelike. This game called Remnant that I'd never heard of before, independent of this podcast. Strange, weird game, but I did enjoy that.
Damn right
my-
you did.
Yeah, if I didn't enjoy it, we wouldn't have beat it that fast. But my number one game this year that absolutely stole my heart and made me regret sleeping on it for this long was Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And it will
Okay.
be the last time I mention a Xenoblade game. Just a second. But I loved that
You
game.
mentioned it for 3 straight categories.
Shut up.
I
This is a
don't
different
believe
Xenoblade, though.
I don't
I'm
believe it.
disappointed.
The other one was the first one. This is the
Just-
second one.
Just like you don't know how to Photoshop your bank statements.
Shut up. But yeah, so I was afraid I wasn't going to like this game because I heard that, the combat's very divisive because it's kind of like an FF12 style MMO combat inserted into a single player game. I ended up absolutely loving the combat, and I loved the story, and I loved the characters. And I'm also not big on open world games, but this game just sucked me in. I put 100 hours into the base game and 20 hours into the DLC back to back. It's one of 4 games I think this year that I put more than 100 hours into. So yeah, that one quickly became one of my top 5 Switch games of all time, and I slept on it for way too long.
And next year's favorite old game is Melody of Memory.
Shut up.
Moose? Moose?
I heard you. I know, man. Honorable mentions. Okay. 2 games I've talked about before. One way too much, and it made it into an article. Number 3 is Breath of the Wild. I'm going through my 3rd playthrough again, and it's not. It's like not the same game twice.
It doesn't get worse either.
And it doesn't. Like the game doesn't get worse. Like everything is it's just so good. So like now I'm like I'm thinking of going back to my main file and completing the DLC and like all those little quests that you can do and trying to get everything that I could possibly get without having a stupid amiibo like the armor and whatnot and the weapons. Okay. So, and I have to do the sword trial for the Master Sword, which I have not done yet. And I hear that's a lot of fun. So I want to do that. Well, I say that with a grain of salt because I heard it's fun, but not fun. Anyways, so that is number 3. Number 2, Division 2 is number 2.
How many hours? How many hours? How many hours?
What, 1,026 now, 36? Is that what
1120. 1120.
Because he told me last night he was going over, what other games you want to know about? And I'm just sitting there like, okay, let's do these. And so anyway, it's got a lot of hours in this game. The DLC, I think I put way more hours into the game this year than I did last year because the DLC dropped, just started doing seasons, running like crazy. Now I feel we're on our 4th season starts 2 weeks. So, like the end of December. So I think that'll be the final season for the game before they move on to the 3rd one. But anyways, loving it. It's a blast. But my number 1 old game is Wildlands. Because holy hell, this game is just insanely fun. I am kind of upset that I slept on this game and didn't play it when it originally came out. But it makes me really want to pick up Breakpoint, which is the latest one. But I'm like, nope, not going to do that until, I finish Wildlands. And it'll go on sale again. But it's so much fun, just the chaos that you can create in the game and how, like, one base could take you 30 minutes because you're trying to, like, take everybody out without being seen. Because if you're seen, it's just a nightmare depending on what level the area you're in. And so it's a good time. I highly recommend it for anybody that's looking for it's a massive game. The map is huge. What you can do in the game is huge. There's a lot you can do. And what were the hours I put in here? Like 50 some, Jason? And I'm not even tired of it yet. Like I played majority of yesterday, and then me and Jeff played some, and that's what's nice is like the drop in and drop out. So like me and Jeff played some, did some missions, and then Jason joined me and Jeff last night and played some missions. So it's a lot of fun. So number 1 on my list. But anyways.
Matt?
Okay, so I have a list as I usually do. I'm just gonna go through them real quick. So this is in ascending order. So least favorite to most favorite. Hitman Space Outlaw, Guacamelee, which I platinumed again with my wife, which is fun. Dark Souls 2, Enter the Gungeon, Binding of Isaac, Gundam Versus, Ashen, Monster Hunter World, Darkest Dungeon, Strange Brigade, and Moonlighter. Moonlighter stole my heart in ways that I had no real indication that it would steal my heart in the ways that it did. And it was such a fun time when I was trucking towards the platinum, and then the DLC hit PS4, and I'm just like, fuck, we're going back. And it's so much fun. It's such a good game. Them's my faves.
Favorite combat. Number 3 for me, Ghost Runner. This is like a ballet of murder, mayhem, carnage, and decapitation.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to open a review with that.
I've watched people play this game, and like I'm trying to think. I know I've seen other games that do this particular thing, but I don't remember what they are.
Yeah, it's weird because when you're not doing well, it's awful. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but you get into that, once you get into that rhythm, you don't stop. It's not like, oh, kill this guy, take a break. Like, you just keep going. And like, when it's going, it's just awesome. Like, it flows so well. Like the level design is just, it's like trial and error though. You have to figure it out because it could be like, go this way, right. And then you're like, shit, where do I go? And then you realize, oh, I was supposed to, so you restart and go and finish the route. Number 2, Ghost of Tsushima. I admittedly was worried it was going to be like Neo and nothing wrong with Neo, but it took me a long time to figure out Neo's stances, and I wasn't super comfortable at the end, but I understood what to do. Like Michaela taught me tricks, Matt taught me tricks. Like,
You're just
this
tricks,
though,
aren't you?
yeah, just tricks. This though, like the freedom and the changing of stand, granted it's an easier combat, but it doesn't really take away from it. And then using like your kunai and everything else, like it just was so cool. Like stealth through a base and just take everyone out, like, or even if you had to just get into combat. And then the whole standoff thing was just so cool. I mean, at times it was just like, oh, fine, another standoff. But sometimes it's like, oh, I'm fit. Let's go. Standoff. Bring it.
I was never off fine another standoff. I was like, where's the fucking standoff? Who wants to die?
Number 1 though, Doom Eternal.
Okay.
They kicked it up 10 notches from 2016. Like, similar to Ghost Runner, it's like once you get moving, like Doom's not a cover shooter. You just got to keep going, and like it just was so satisfying. Like when you're like you have to clear the whole room before the door opens, and it was just like going back and forth using the shotgun that had the hook on it to pull forward. Like it was just so cool.
Awesome.
Michaela?
I'm just going to run through some honorable mentions. So KH3 Reminds DLC took what was already a very solid combat system and just made it even tighter, a little less floaty, really customizable. The combos you can see in this game are nuts. Hades, for reasons I don't even need to explain, and Ghost of Tsushima for a lot of the reasons that Jason just went through. My top 2 here are very nearly tied, and it's very hard for me to just pick one. So Neo 2. Neo, to me, has one of the deepest combat systems in existence. And Neo 2 somehow adds mechanics on top of that without making it unmanageable, because it changed the way living weapon stuff works. It added stuff like the burst counters. It added like the demon cores, all that stuff. So Neo 2 is very tight, very deep. If you want to learn a game to the point of feeling like you are a professional at a game, Neo is like a unique franchise for doing that. The community is very inventive, and being a part of that upper echelon of gamers was one of the crowning achievements like of my life. Never like personal achievements, just things that I felt. And Neo 2's combat is just butter. It is so good. It is so good. But I have to go number 1 with 7 Remake, because it is the fulfillment of a many years dream for me to see this fluid and execution of hybrid action turn-based combat in a game like 7 Remake, after I had actually written in January 2018 an article predicting that 7 Remake could be home for a hybrid combat system, and then seeing that come to life and seeing ATB used and seeing like the traditional overdrives and stuff like that come to action while you are moving the characters, and the character switching is really fluid, and it's pretty as hell, and it feels awesome. Just to see that kind of dream come true just nudges it slightly above Neo 2 for me on a personal scale this year.
I forgot about your uncanny ability to predict all things related to Final Fantasy VII. We used to have fun with that, right, Moose?
I see.
You could predict like day and date and time.
Yeah.
Gonna have to let us know when Chapter 2 comes out.
Remember my bet. Remember my bet for about 10 days from now. You remember?
Which bet?
I told my roommate, I'm betting that part 2 will not have a teaser at the Game Awards. And if I'm wrong, I have to be in her TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
Please be
So
wrong.
For once in
Please
my
be
life, I'm
wrong.
saying, please don't have a
Please
Final
be wrong.
Fantasy
Please be
trailer.
wrong.
You need to send that, and I'm going to have that as Story Route Zero's pinned tweet.
Please be wrong.
Moose.
Bloodborne.
Favorite.
Had to.
Favorite combat. Honorable mentions. Vigil, The Longest Night, which is mentioned it kind of later here in the year. It's like 2D side-scrolling Bloodborne mixed with Dark Souls a little bit. I like the combat in it. It's different enough from other 2D side-scrollers and Dark Souls games, but it still kind of has the same blueprint, I would say, to how the game behaves and what you're looking for when you're playing it. So that's an honorable mention. Combat's really good in that. Scourgebringer, Jason is an asshole. So we were sitting there and Jason's just like, there's a demo for Scourgebringer. And I'm like, he's like, remember that game? And I'm like, no. So I downloaded the demo. I played like 2 minutes of it. I was on my Switch. I went out to the homepage of the Switch, deleted the demo, and immediately went to the store and bought it and played
And then
it.
went to our Facebook chat and said, fuck you, Jason.
Yes, I did. And immediately went to the Facebook chat and said, F you, Jason. But the combat is a lot of fun. You got like a melee, you got a ranged, it's fast, it's furious. If you like, and it's really like it can be bite size if you want it to be. Like it's really pick up and play, which is nice. Like you don't really have to like memorize like how do I parry? You know what I mean? Like it's not like Dark Souls where you're like have to like practice parrying for a while, and then if you haven't been playing it, like you kind of forget or whatever, you know what I mean? So the controls are tight and they're easy to pick up and remember. And then my number one is Hades. Hades controls are just friggin' awesome. Like it plays really well. I would maybe remap some buttons, but other than that, like if I die, I'm never like, oh man, I hit that button and it just didn't register or something like that. So I feel like they did a really good job with handling how the main character controls inside the world. So that's my number one.
Matt?
This is combat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I've got 5. Number 5, Ghost of Tsushima. We're probably going to be talking about this a lot. Number 4 for me is actually Hades, because we're probably going to be talking about it a lot. I don't think it's bad by comparison of what I had in my top 3, but the top 3 were very distinct for me in ways that Hades just wasn't. Number 3, Mobile Suit Gundam Extreme versus Maxi Boost On. I bought this game and I didn't play it for a few weeks, and then I ended up getting into a tournament in this game with a bunch of folks from the abnormal mapping community. And these are all people who just know a shit ton about Gundam and picking their brains about how to use the different suits. I found myself getting better pretty at a steady clip. But what really makes this combat sing is while ultimately these are giant unwieldy robots, all of them, all 100 and I think 80 something suits feel different. The variants feel different. So if you have the RX-78-2 and a variant of it, it will feel different. The variants of the Barbatos feel different. The variants of the Zaku, which is not a Gundam, feel different. But it is a. I wish there was an offline mode for this game because I would play it more and it would be a lot less intimidating. My number 2 is Streets of Rage 4. This is probably the nostalgia pick in the category because I spent a lot of time with this series when I had a Sega Genesis. But this is some of the best beat 'em up combat I've played in years, and I like how they do the risk reward system of doing a special move that takes away your health, but the longer you go without getting hit, you gain that health back. My number 1 is Yakuza Like a Dragon. For a series that was basically a 3D beat 'em up for a long time, they switched. Now I can't compare this because I've never played a Yakuza game, but they switched to turn-based. And as someone who goes back and forth on turn-based combat in games that are more modern, this is fantastic. I do like that when it's not your character's turn, you're not just waiting to be hit. Like you have agency in the conversation of a fight. I do like how they implement each of the party members' classes. Now there are some of these that are kind of problematic. Like you get a homeless ex-nurse in your party, and he does a halitosis thing, and that's kind of like, that's a bit close to the bone when you're talking about being homeless. Like, really, their only weapon is their bad breath? Like, that's bad. But a lot of this is done so well, and it has made such an impression on me that it took my top spot in combat. Sorry for talking so long.
Favorite game mechanic? Mine's in Bloodroots. The fact that you can literally pick up any object.
Another
make it a
fucking
weapon.
game I forgot to play. Sorry.
You could pick up anything. You could like throw a guy into a table and then pick up a table leg and beat the next guy with it. Like take a ladder, spin it around, take out 3 guys, and then use the ladder. Like it just was so cool how there were so many possible weapons that they had. I thought that was just a blast. Kayla?
So honorable mentions, the standoff mechanic in Ghost of Tsushima is fucking awesome. You feel pretty badass.
Yeah. Yeah, real high on my list too.
Yep. Then I'm gonna put burst counters from Neo, which is kind of like an additional parry mechanic that they put into the second game that was not in the first game. And it's because, so in the first game you had living weapon from your guardian spirit. Now your guardian spirit is more closely related to your character's demon half. And depending on which of the 3 types of like demon your guardian spirit falls into, you have 3 different like burst counters. And this is also kind of like a most improved mechanic for me because I was very worried about it when I first experienced this new mechanic. And I want to say the alpha last year, and then to this year when the game actually released, they improved the cue, that the red cue on screen that lets you know it's coming. They improved the response times, and it really did add another parry to an already ridiculously deep combat system, and it felt amazing when you learned that mechanic and pulled it off. So that's got to go in there. Also up there for me is ATB in 7 Remake. I love how they put ATB in this game. The way it feels awesome. Your ATB slowly fills up on its own like it would in a regular FF7 game, but it's sped up when you take damage or deal damage. And so your square button, whatever triangle, is mapped to your normal attacks, but you need to spend ATB bars to do anything beyond just regular melee attacks. So like using items or spells, and spells cost ATB and magic, which sounds like it doesn't work. It sounds like it would be a restriction on the player, but it absolutely works. I love the ATB system and the tactical slowdown mode. So you can play FF7 as a turn-based game, you can play it as a fully action game, but if you play it as the hybrid experience, you have that tactical slowdown mode that they showed off in E3 last year, where you're scrolling through your menu and the whole combat is like in super slow-mo, and it's like, yeah, we're sexy and we know it and looks really cool. And it lets you play a strategy game in the middle of an action game, and it's just awesome. But my number one...
I didn't know LMFAO was in Final Fantasy. No, I'm kidding.
My number one mechanic is dying in Hades. Because I think in my article about Hades, I said that the bane of repetition that plagues all roguelikes becomes a weapon in the hands of Supergiant, and it's tied to how they reward you for dying in this game, including when you beat the game and then die and go back to the beginning and play again and again and again until you get the credits. Dying is its own reward is a tagline for many roguelites, but this is the first time I felt it was actually true because of the steady reward of not only mechanical progression with your character and upgrades, but with the story progression and the character interactions. I have to give it up to Supergiant for this one.
Word.
Moose?
So piggybacking on that was my honorable mention, because like the way they dealt with the mechanics of the story in Hades was awesome, because like even when you died, or even when you're coming to an end of a run and you're like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna make it or whatever, you're at least in the back of your mind, you're like, okay, I might get some upgrade materials, or also I can go get more of the story. You know what I mean? It's not just like, oh, it's kind of a waste from here on out until I die. Like, and then if I die, I gotta start it all back over again. Like they made the hub of where you are when you die like so integral to like the game that it's awesome. It's not just somewhere where you go upgrade and then run off and go back and try and throw yourself at the enemies again. You can run around, you can talk to people, there's quest lines for everybody's story that you can unlock as you're playing and as you're going through. And so it was a really awesome mechanic. I thought that they and it made roguelikes bearable. Not that they weren't for me personally before, but I feel for other people.
You're getting some looks over there from certain parties. It's okay, Moose. I'll back you up.
I'm not giving him a look.
No, I'm not talking about you.
Jason.
Oh, okay. We said certain people. I'm like, wait a minute.
I said certain parties.
You people, Matt.
You people.
Us roguelike people. No.
Anyways.
Yes.
Is that it?
Second honorable mention is the Stink Shot in Wildlands. It's awesome. I know it's kind of like cheating. It's kind of like quote unquote easy mode, but when you play solo, you have 3 other squad mates, and they're basically 3 sync shots. You can set them up to pick targets, and then you can be the person taking the 4th shot, and you can take out 4 people at a time. But it's awesome when you're like trying to like sneak into a base and you're like, I don't want this to take forever. I don't want to take every shot. You can set them up, take out the snipers first, work your way, start in one corner of the base and work your way across using your sync shots. And it's a lot of fun to like pick and be tactical and whatnot. So
it's satisfying when you hear pew, pew, pew.
Yeah. Or like you're watching and you shoot the guy and you kill your guy, and it's in a crowd of 3 other guys that you marked as targets, and they all see that guy die, and then all of them just drop like crazy. Like they're all just like dead. And it's like, yes, it's like so good. My favorite mechanic is swimming and eating and attacking in Maneater. It's a lot of fun. Like just
I was
swimming.
hoping this game would get mentioned.
Like Grand Theft?
I'm pretty sure you're the only one that played it. I'm pretty sure.
Probably, yeah.
Because I know
that would be a miss for you, Mike.
another goddamn game I forgot to fucking play.
But it is just so fun. Like it's like Grand Theft Auto in the water. Like you're just swimming around. The swimming mechanics are good, and then just like attacking and like eating things. It's just so satisfying to come upon somebody on a near beach, swimming off the coast of a beach, and just chomp into them and like shake them to death. It's good. It's a lot of fun. But that's my number.
That game provided probably my favorite ending to an episode of this show this year because it was you singing "Maneater" by Hall & Oates. Yes, I remember that.
Matt.
Okay, I got a bunch of mechanics. So number 5, I'm going to start with soccer from Captain Tsubasa: Rise of the New Champions. Part FIFA, part NBA Jam. Your goalkeepers have a life bar. It's really fun. And anime stuff happens. It's great. Fishing in Animal Crossing: New Horizons. While I was still playing that game, I got a lot of zen joy going after the fish in that game. Then standoffs from Ghost of Tsushima. I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about this a lot. My number 3 is swinging in Spider-Man Miles Morales. Better than the first game. 2 is death in Hades. Another thing we're probably going to be talking about a lot. And number 1, sleuthing in Paradise Killer. It's pretty much the entire loop, but in my experience with detective games, a lot of that sort of organizing of information is on the player and can get really overwhelming. Mm-hmm. I feel like Paradise Killer's interface took a lot of great ideas from the Outer Wilds from last year. I'm not sure that Kaizen Gameworks did this, but it's the closest reminder I have, considering I played it last year, and this game is friggin' special, and you all should play it. That's me.
The one thing on the Miles, I'm not saying Peter Parker was better. Why couldn't Miles backflip? We mentioned it last week.
Oh, no, I'll tell you. I couldn't think of what to play earlier today after work. I went back to 2018 Spider-Man because I'm like, all right, I could get the rest of these trophies since I found my save file. And he backpedals too.
Oh, I feel like I remember it being more fluid for some
Same.
reason.
I remember it too, but we remembered wrong because the human memory is fallible. So
all fucked up.
No, I don't think it's that big a deal. But like, basically, rose-colored glasses are still a thing.
I mean, it makes sense though, because you're going forward. Should hold back, like if backflip was a button versus holding the stick backwards and expecting to keep your momentum. I get it from that, but for some reason, like you, I remembered it being more fluid.
I feel like because you had to hold I know with Miles Morales, you had to hold the square button to do tricks. I'm pretty sure you had to do that in 2018 too. That I don't remember from earlier. But I figured if the square button was engaged, forward momentum would continue, but it does not.
Favorite controls. So this is obviously my opinion. As you know, I hadn't played Warcraft in 12 years. Playing it all this year, I never felt more comfortable again. Like it was like it just
was like getting on that bicycle.
Yeah, you got back on that bike.
You just like,
and it's weird because
it's just like riding a mount. You never forget.
But it's weird
I made an MMO joke.
You did. It's just weird because the controls in Warcraft for me are different from from the next guy and the next girl. Like you can completely customize it, but I still felt comfortable like with weird combinations that I hadn't used in 10 plus years. Next was Ghost Runner. Once I got a hang of it, like it's they're simple controls, but they require some precision, and they felt good once you learned what to do. And number one was Doom Eternal. With all that chaos, to not like get slipped up, I never felt like fumbled around or anything. Like I was always able to just handle everything with ease. Michaela?
So honorable mentions, I got Hades in here. I have Miles in here. I have Ori 2 in here. Will-O-Wisps. I have Crash 4 as my number 3. Shit is tight. Shit is responsive, and it still feels like true to the Crash like that you think of. Obviously, it's not the same as PS1 era, but in the way that the Insane trilogy nailed it, Toys for Bob did a very good job here with Crash 4. Just like they did with Spyro. I got my eye on them. They're very good here. So Crash 4 feels very good. Number 2, 7 Remake, and number 1, Neo 2. So I had the other way around for the combat, but Neo 2's got the tightest controls. It doesn't work if it's not as tight and as responsive as it is. This thing targeting 120 FPS in February. I cannot wait for that shit. It's just like the canceling, everything. Like I said, this game is butter. So good.
Can't wait to play it.
Oh,
Yeah,
so
too.
good.
Yeah. I like I was talking about it as soon as I saw that was coming out. I'm like, that's when I'll buy it. I'll buy that version on PS5.
Well, I'm thinking I might get it because I'm thinking I might get it on 4 just because I think there's probably going to be 2 trophy lists.
Yeah, there's also going to be a free upgrade. If you get like the complete or remastered whatever on 4, you can, I believe, free upgrade on 5 anyways. So you don't lose anything by getting it on 4.
There you go, man.
And a lot of the PS4 to PS5 is just like auto sync platinum. So I'll take a second Morales platinum.
So like I'm not buying it again in February. I'm just gonna do the free upgrade in February because I have the complete edition for both games. I have platinums for both games.
Hell yeah.
Please give me that shit.
Hell yeah.
I haven't played the DLC yet for the second game, so now I'm just because the final DLC comes out like now, and I'm going to wait on it until they have the PS5 upgrade because why not?
Yeah,
sure.
You might as well just wait till it's like smooth as silk, when you get in there and play it.
It's already nice. Now
well, I'm not saying that it's not nice now.
I know, I'm just saying.
Like extra smooth,
Extra butter.
It's already
extra
butter.
Yeah. We put extra butter on it.
I want movie theater butter.
Yeah, there we go. It should be called Neo 2 Movie Theater Butter Edition.
They're not going to figure out any trophies with Neo 2. They couldn't even figure out save files between the PlayStation Plus version and the regular version.
They've worked on that for Neo 2, though. Like, Neo 2, one of the best things, I didn't mention this as a mechanic, but they made it so that you can easily swap between builds. Like, you can save your characters, hit triangle, and switch them. And whereas
I think you mentioned that on the show.
I did. In the first game, you had to have, like, a cloud save backed up somewhere.
Dude, I took so many pictures of my stats because going through all the weapon challenges.
I feel you.
That should have been a miss. Ghost of Tsushima adding loadouts after we all beat it. That's a miss.
Yeah.
You messed up, son.
Swing and a miss. A little late.
Fuck you, Insomniac. Jeez. No, what's next? Is that it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Moose?
Favorite controls. Honorable mentions. Spider-Man still plays just as well as 2018. Love it. Combat's good. And just like Matt said, just, web slinging throughout New York is awesome. It's good. It's a good time.
It is the fucking freest thing I can think of immediately in games.
And then Scourgebringer is number 2. It's just awesome. Like you just move so fluidly. The controls work so well to help you move fluidly throughout the levels. And then number 1 is Hades. Yeah, just love Hades. But anyways, it's gonna be number 1 for me for a lot, guys. Just
it's
buckle in.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's going to be a pattern. I'm here for it. I believe that puts us to me.
Yep.
Yes.
So number 5, Risk of Rain 2. That game's good. Got 1.0 this year. It's in. That game is so much fun to play. 4, Captain Tsubasa, Rise of New Champions. Anime soccer is a good old time. 3, Ghost of Tsushima. 2, Yakuza Like a Dragon. And number 1, what Boo said, Hades.
Cool. It's a good list.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Is it?
Boss
We are up
Boss
to favorite boss fight. Dun, dun, dun.
Are we back?
Favorite boss fight. So my first one is, well, it's a tie in this one game, but you guys can tell me if it qualifies. Does the Vulture fight in Miles Morales count?
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
Yes.
So that and Prowler. I had a blast with those 2 fights. The Prowler fight at the end.
I don't
It's
know
really
what.
fun with the headphones. It's really fun with the headphones because you can hear them all around you.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I thought the Vulture was cool for like just like a story perspective and like Miles coming into his own as a Spider-Man, but
Boy.
but like neither of the boss fights did anything for me personally, other than like the ancillary stuff. But that's cool. They aren't bad fights at all.
And the other, the other runner-up is from Remnant, Subject 2923.
Oh Jesus Christ!
The Ornstein Smog fight.
Oh God, that fight!
It is Broodvac and Varger. I probably pronounced
Yeah,
it
it's
wrong.
so good. It's
It
so
was such
fucking
a cool
good.
fight. Like, although I have to give credit to the one fight. I can't think of the name. Best intro in Remnant.
Rat?
The rat gets
The rat.
squashed.
No, there's several rats in this arena, and then this rat that's probably like 1.5 to 2 times them with like Freddy Krueger claws takes care of them and then starts walking at you with jazz hands, only to be crushed by the big motherfucker.
Yeah, that was probably best boss fight intro. But my favorite boss fight was the penultimate boss in Doom Eternal, the Con Maker. It was just such a cool fight. Like, had you going all over this open-aired arena, and it was so much fun. It was better than the final boss.
I've heard the final boss is like a attrition.
Yeah, it's kind of like when I felt that way with Bloodborne. Finally got to the Queen, and you're like, wait, that was the final fight? Like for it's like when because most of them, I'm like, wait, that was it?
Yeah.
It was harder getting to that fight than it was
It's harder
fighting
to
that
get
fight.
to it. It's like that's your reward. It's like a reward.
Yeah, I mean, I think and I can't speak for Doom Eternal, that Yharnam Queen fight, you have to have not learned a lot by the time you get there for that to be a good fight.
Right.
Yeah, I could. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, if you go there and just sort of like attempt to like tie a arm behind your back while you're fighting her, it becomes like, oh, this actually requires some thought and some planning. But if you haven't learned anything going through the Chalice Dungeons in Bloodborne, then she's a hard fight. But if chances are you've learned a thing or two by the time you get there.
Yeah, it's always weird to me when games do that, but yeah, Doom did that. I felt the penultimate fight was so much better than the final fight.
Mm-hmm.
Michaela?
I mean, what stinks about that? Real quickly, just because I have a thought in my head, and if I don't say it, I'm going to kill myself. What stinks about that Yharnam Queen fight is that you fought Gehrman like well before. Like if you put the Yharnam Queen before the Moon Presence and put Gehrman at the Chalice Dungeons, all of a sudden you have some perfection there.
Yeah, that would be. I think that would be a better fight sequence.
Just because you want to earn that platinum after you fight Gehrman.
Yeah.
Michaela?
All right, so first honorable mention, Lady Masako from Ghost, towards the end
Hell
of her
yes!
side quest. Yes, and with the red leaves everywhere.
Oh.
It's from the original gameplay reveal that we had in
Yes.
E3, and it felt like a full circle moment. Her side quests were some of my favorite, especially towards the end when you start to learn more about her and her conflicted character, the difficult relationship she's had, obviously, with her husband and her sister, and then the secret relationship she had with her maidservant, if that's the right term for it.
Mhm.
Loved everything about that. It was cinematic. It was epic. It was cool. I have some honorable mentions from Neo 2, but one of them is a spoiler, so maybe I won't mention it.
No, it's game of the year. You can spoil it.
Are you sure?
Yep, it's game of the year. There's
Okay.
There's gonna be I should probably record a spoiler warning for the
Yeah.
beginning because we didn't.
So I
really
meant for
talk
you
about it.
guys, because you guys are going to probably play the shit out of Neo 2 eventually.
Spoilers don't bother me. I'm fine.
Okay. I mean, it's not like, yeah, okay. So honorable mention, Takichiro. So Takichiro is like your first and best friend in this game, and he turns bad. And you do have to confront him on his shit. And a lot of time passes, and he's aged a little bit since the beginning of the game, and I won't go into why or what happens. But he is that archetypal, like, anime character who's like, you know, in anime, like that one who is characterized by the monkey, the scamp who like jumps around. He's kind of like a rogue almost. That's kind of that is Takichiro. And it goes sour at one point, so you got to put him in his place. Another honorable mention.
Is he like Fredo in The Godfather? Is it like he's kind of like passed over and he feels kind of spurned about that, or is he just
No.
decide to be a shit heel?
When I say a rogue or a rake almost, or a scamp, it's more of a good intention gone wrong. It becomes a self-serving, corrupt intention type of thing.
All right.
And then another honorable mention is technically in the epilogue, you fight Billy, and it made me so happy. I love Billy. Billy is what I call William, who is the protagonist from the first game.
No shit.
Yes, shit.
Oh,
Yes,
that's great.
shit. They bring
That's
him
great.
back for the epilogue, and you have to fight Billy for reasons I won't go into.
Is
but
it a
then
good
you
fight?
get to be your friend again, and then you get to play with Billy. It's a good fight. It's you don't kill him. It stops before the health bar runs out, kind of deal.
I feel like we should have Stan's dad going, or Stan's grandpa going, "Yeah, Billy."
And I won't. Yeah. So, and then my number one from Neo, but not my number one overall, is Otakameru, who is the final boss before the epilogue content, and he was
Okay.
just cool as fuck. He was just really cool. That was a villain done right. It's like a not my final form villain where, you know, you've seen him all throughout the story, and then it's like the next level bad guy, and he's just cool. He wields all of the like different demonic powers, the 3 different demon types for your garden spirits is fused into this fight. It's really slick. The patterns are really cool. He looks really awesome, and it feels really good when you fucking murder him in the face.
Oh, is it like Nobunaga good from the first Neo?
I would say so, in my own
Okay.
personal opinion.
Awesome.
Atakameru was a very satisfying final fight, because you know in Neo it's never final. There's always more content.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's always some shit about to go down.
Yes, but he is the end of the main story boss. And then my number one boss fight from this year is the fucking Hell House from Final Fantasy VII Remake. This thing is ridiculous. It is hilarious, and it made me so fucking happy. So the Hell House is a house that's kind of like possessed by a demon. It's kind of like a Baba Yaga, but more robotic type of deal. It was just a regular enemy that you had in random encounters in a specific section of like the like Sector 5, Sector 6 connecting underground area in the original FF7, and they took this just throwaway random encounter enemy and turned it into this huge boss fight where you need to know your elemental magic, and the house literally is flying around. There's fireworks going off. You're in a coliseum, so there's a crowd cheering. It's really awesome. It's really cool. It's at one of the peak pinnacle coolest, they nailed it sections of the game, which I will get into in our next category, so I'm not really going to talk about it here. But the Hell House, the music about it, the fight itself, the nod to the original game, everything about it was hilarious and perfect at the same time. And it was also probably one of the hardest boss fights, most challenging and therefore most rewarding boss fights in the game, because if you don't know the trick to it, and even when you do know the trick to the fight, it can still lay you flat on your ass. Since I did the platinum for this, I had to do New Game Plus, extra hard mode, all this shit. And that was the one fight. That was the one fight that really gave me trouble, because at one point the Hell House starts spitting out Tonberries. And if you know Final Fantasy, Tonberries are these little like green lizard monk dudes, and all they do is carry a lantern and walk around and stab people with a knife, and it does 99999 damage, so it's a one-hit KO. So it spits out 3 of them at once. So you have to like kill these freaking Tonberries. Meanwhile, the Hell House is flying around doing all these ridiculous things. It is just mayhem, and it's awesome. Perfect.
I feel like you dropped acid then talked about stuff.
Yeah, I did. That's what I did during the break.
Awesome.
Nice.
Moose?
All right. So honorable mentions. First one is the Tower in Jet Lancer. So like Jet Lancer is like a gold indie that you should play. It came out earlier this year. It's like a fighter pilot style game, but it's like on. It's like you're watching it from top-down view, but it doesn't control like a twin-stick shooter. So, what is it?
Is it like Raiden from, or like the 1940s?
No, you know, what was it? What was
Luftrausers?
Yeah, it's kind of like that, where you're just flying all around and like can do loops and stuff. And so, like, you're trying to get used to the game, and then you happen upon the boss, and it took me like 3 tries to kill him just because, you know, wasn't used to the controls. But it's a lot of fun. I highly recommend checking out Jet Lancer if you get a chance. It is on sale currently for the cyber sale. Second honorable mention is Meg from Hades. She is a good fight and a lot of fun, but she's my second favorite because of the banter back and forth in the game. The banter is just top notch.
This game is so good.
And then spoilers, it could also be somebody else. So it's almost kind of like that fight, that quote unquote fight instance in the game, you know, is really cool. Like how they mixed it up, but also her banter back and forth. And then my number one is Hades from Hades, just because he like
Moose got daddy issues. No, I'm kidding.
no, like the thing with like roguelikes is like you're just like it takes you forever to get back to the boss, so it takes you a while to like memorize the boss. And then like it was the 5th or 6th time, and I don't know why I didn't expect it, but like there was a second phase, and I'm like, of course, okay. So now, you know, it took another like 10-15 tries to get back there and actually beat him. But I feel.
Or you're me texting Jason, there's a second phase.
But anyways, so I feel like my number one advice for any of Hades is like slow down, like don't be so aggressive. And so learning his fight and not being so aggressive allowed me to survive more easily. But it's a cool fight, and how he taunts you and the attacks that he does, and then throwing enemies spawns at you, and his laser beams can go to hell. But all in all, it's a really good fight. They did a really good job capping off, you know, quote unquote, the end of the game, you know what I mean, with a really good boss fight. So that's my number one.
Matt?
All right, I got a bit. So my first honorable mention is Finn in Miles Morales. My second honorable mention is I don't remember the name, and I forgot to look it up, but it is the motorbike Freddie Mercury guy from Streets of Rage 4. He is a fun fight, and I think he's of the bosses. I think I beat that game. Of all the bosses, he's the one with the most interesting variants in the combat. Next up, Duel at Falling Water in Ghost of Tsushima. I know there are a lot of duels in Ghost of Tsushima, but in terms of like out and out spectacle, there's this and the side quest that I can't remember that you get like armor after, but this is the one that is like, it's clear they were cribbing every kung fu movie. They were cribbing Zhang Yimou's Hero or House of Flying Daggers for this fight, but they also made it 100% their own. Also from Ghost of Tsushima, Lady Misako, because if you don't like that fight, I don't know, you can't say you like video games as far as I'm concerned. And you definitely can't say, games are like movies, because both of these fights are fucking cinematic as shit. My number one is from Hades. It is Theseus, and I can't remember the name of the Minotaur. The reason it is this particular fight, and Moose is correct, the fights with Meg are damn near perfect. There is no character in the past 2 to 3 years that made me hate them as much as Theseus does. And there's no I don't know how to, but like, there's no like, I don't want to disrespect the Minotaur by saying he's like a hanger-on.
Asterius. Yeah.
Asterius? Okay. I don't want to disrespect Asterius by saying he's like a hanger-on, but it's just like, yo, why are you with this asshole? Because we all know you are better than this, Asterius. We all know it. We fought you by yourself, and you are a solid Minotaur, man.
Well, I think he explains it. He's with him because
I hang out with assholes too, but I'm not going to defend them. I'll let them defend themselves. And usually I try not to hang out with assholes. So that's, a couple of problems. But Theseus and Asterius are easily the best boss fight I've had since Smog and Orenstein from the first Dark Souls in 2011. They fit that mold so perfectly. Supergiant was definitely looking at that fight when they designed this, and they definitely found the right tone and delivery of all of Theseus's bullshit throughout this fight. I was never more frustrated to lose to a boss, and I was never more happy to put a boss in the fucking ground. And if I put Theseus in the ground first, I was like super happy, but then I just dealt with the Minotaur. But if I put the Minotaur first, I would basically do an elaborate touchdown dance when Theseus met, his maker. But Theseus and the Minotaur are my favorite boss fight. It's going to be a lot of Hades, in case you haven't noticed.
I don't think I've mentioned Hades yet.
trash.
You're alone in
Yet.
that one, buddy.
I said yet. Favorite
Yeah,
level.
there's one category where you have to mention.
I don't have to.
He doesn't
Favorite
have to.
Hades character, you kind of need to.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Fine. There's
I,
one.
you know, I was thinking of a different one. Thank you. See, I'm so glad we have you,
What I'm here
Michaela.
for.
I know I bludgeoned the shit out of you with dumb puns. Thank you for putting up with me, but we're really glad to have you.
I love memory.
Fine, I mentioned it. Not as much as you guys. Anyway, favorite level.
Ooh.
So the first one for me is in Watch Dogs Legion. Watch Dog Legion. There is a level where, so you control the drone. It's not like you control it all of them, but there's one exclusively where you're flying the drone and performing stuff like for the entirety. I thought it was the coolest thing. Like you had to figure out this one puzzle, go back. Like it was a whole scenario. Number 2 was the warehouse in Tony Hawk Pro Skater. I've never felt more at home. Load that up and just
Fair. I
it was
mean,
like,
you know.
yeah,
Yeah, that's fair.
This is it.
That's definitely fair. Yeah.
hit that quarter pipe, sail over, get the secret tape immediately. Like
It's like coming home from college, just being in your old room, right? Yeah.
And number 1 for me was the hospital in Last of Us. The whole hospital scene level is just great.
Last of Us
And
2.
Last of Us 2, sorry.
Okay, so they do that again. All right, great.
There's a hospital scene, there's a boss fight, and then my first legit jump scare is in that level. Michaela knows what I'm talking about. It was
I watched
one of
it.
those,
I did not play it because I am spineless. Shit is
it was like and it was one of those jump scares where you're like, something's gonna happen. I know it, and damn it.
It's like the pit of dread, and you can't do anything about it.
You're waiting, you're like, all right, I know it's gonna happen anyway.
You
And I still
acknowledge
did
that the
it.
game is gonna get you, whether you like it or not.
But I
It's
thought
like watching a
that whole-
Hitchcock film. You know you're going to get fucked with.
Yeah, that whole level, right up to the end, was one of my favorites in that game. And that's it for mine. Michaela?
So my first honorable mention actually goes to Boletaria, my first mention for Demon Souls remake. It is the intro to the game. It is the first world you go to. And it might not be the most intricate or the most standout. I don't know what the fandom really likes out of the 5 different worlds, but the thing that I liked about this one as an introduction to the game and as like the foundation that lays the groundwork for how the level design is going to work in the game. Like I mentioned, I think in the last episode, each individual level between archstones feels like a microcosm of a roguelike because there are no bonfires. If you die, you go back to the archstone. Of course, you can open shortcuts to help your way through and get you to the boss faster. So if you do die, it's right there. You don't have to retrace the whole level. But the level design felt like an achievement here. And then you add on to it the attention to detail in the environments that Bluepoint put in this game. And yeah, that's my number 3. Number 2 is a Neo level called the Frenzied Blaze. And you guys played the first one. Do you remember the snow level in Neo 1? And the boss is Yuki Onna. She's like an ice lady in a house.
Yeah.
You remember her?
Yes. One of the best
so-
boss fights in that fucking game. Oh my
Yes.
God.
And if you beat her, one of the optional side missions in that area, you can fight Yuki Onna and her lover.
And Oda Nobunaga.
Yes,
Yeah.
and Nobunaga. The Frenzied Blaze is about how Yuki Onna became Yuki Onna because Neo 2 is a prequel. So instead of being
What?
instead of being that abandoned ice level, it is the burning of that town, and that is where Yuki Onna dies and becomes the demon that you know her as.
Oh,
in Neo
get the
1.
fuck out of town. I gotta fucking play this game.
It was so
Oh.
good. Like all good prequels, it's better if you know the original because it's almost like a
course.
sequel in that sense. Although Neo 2 is a prequel and a sequel because the epilogue of Neo 2 takes place after Neo 1. So the Neo 2
yeah.
is prequel, but the epilogue of Neo
Billy.
2 takes... Yes, Billy. Billy, come back. So, but the Frenzied Blaze, it wasn't the only moment where you see, like, because if you played Neo 1, you're going to recognize a lot of characters or predecessors to those characters. Like, for example, Hanzo's dad, Hanzo's dad or grandfather, I forget which, is in Neo 2. So you're going to notice stuff like that. But the Frenzied Blaze was the epitome, because you know that Nobunaga and his lover died. She becomes tragically this demon that you fight as a really cool ice boss. But this whole level is just that, and it's the same area. You're gonna recognize it.
It's the same area, but on fire.
But on fire, so like there, you have to go through it differently because the ice creates paths that the fire might block or something like that, or there's new fresh damage that's gonna. So, but you recognize the landmarks, and it's just in that moment I was fangirling so hard, and it was so perfect. And it's like, oh my god, I know where I am. Oh my fuck, I know where I am.
God damn it! Now I have to fucking play
You
this
need to play
game.
this game. It's
Jesus.
so
I
good.
I need to play this game. We're gonna have to co-op it at some point.
I'm
Michaela.
down. I'm around.
Cool.
But my number one.
We're gonna have a bunch of Mondays off, so.
But yes. But my number one is Wall Market from Final Fantasy VII Remake. So Wall Market could have gone either way. It could have been done very right or very wrong. Wall Market in the original game, there's some sensitive stuff in there that they needed to handle the right way to stay true to the story and the characters, but not be like offensive. So Wall Market is where you have the cross-dressing scene for Cloud. He has to sneak into an auction for women, basically, and he dresses up as a woman to escort Aerith in there, and you find Tifa there, and Don Corneo is basically having his pick of women, and he can pick Cloud. You also have, like just a lot of illicit activities happening there, but this is where they go ham. They did the honeybee injustice. They did Cloud's cross-dressing justice. Everything felt awesome. The music was amazing. It felt like the game you knew, but in Technicolor, because originally FF7, I played it later. I didn't obviously play it when I was 3 years old and it came out, but this brought dreams to life. It was so awesome. So awesome. The Honeybee Inn sequence catches a lot of new players. They thought it was really cool. For me, it just felt full circle. And they kept a lot of the stupid stuff from Wall Market too, like the squatting mini game. You can go to the gym and like have a squat off with some really buff dudes in leotards. You could still do that. It's awesome. It's so dumb. It's great. I love it. And you can have Cloud and
then
pigtails.
make fun on my
Awesome.
Thursday.
Yeah. And there's just some great, like Cherith was born. There's this one scene where Tifa and Aerith are breaking out of Don Corneo's, and Aerith in her beautiful red dress literally gives a guy the chair. Like, you see the steel chair go up, boom, right down. It's perfect. It's great. I didn't even know I wanted it in my life, but now it's in my life forever, and it's great. And Wall Market was, so Chapter 9 is like a crowning achievement for FF7. It was everything I could have hoped for and so much more. It's also where you fight Hell House.
Moose?
I remember Hell House.
Honorable mentions. I've got two. Number 3 is My Island, Animal Crossing. Just chill, run around the level, hang out.
Mooseland.
For a shitty ass year, it was just nice going to the Moose Land and just relaxing. So that's number 3. The Shinra plant reactor in Final Fantasy VII. Man, flashbacks, like good flashbacks. I was like,
The whole game.
yeah. And I really do need to go back and finish it, and I want to, and possibly platinum it. I don't know. We're not mentioning platinums yet. Okay, I took a break from platinums. I only got 1 this year, so I'm happy about that. But anyways,
Still time, Moose.
nobody cares. I don't
7
care.
remakes of tough platinum, though.
But
I'm just saying
it's-
you could platinum Division 2.
I could and probably will.
Platinum Wildlands first.
I probably will. But anyways, so it was just a great level, and it was awesome being back in that setting again. But like, it was so beautiful. It's so pretty now. And then my number one is Hades. Pretty much any level. Any level is just awesome. The artwork is just so amazing. The level design is just really great as far as enemy placement and you being able to traverse the levels. It's just really good. So that's my number one.
Okay, I have a couple. I'm going to start with my winner in this category. It is the Entertainment from Kentucky Route Zero. This is for a game that is basically a spin on the point and click adventure that is more text heavy than probably most point and click adventures this side of the 80s. The Entertainment puts the player in the middle of a play that is happening around them. You look around the room and you see the lights, you see everything basically set around you. It's a very interesting play about, much like the game, it's about capitalism eroding everything in its wake. And it is one of the best written sections of a game that I can immediately think of. Going back a long ways. But it is one of those things that it is in the middle. It is between Act 2 and 3 of Kentucky Route Zero. It's an interlude. I honestly think you don't have to play everything leading up to it or anything after it in order to experience it and like it. The beautiful thing about these interludes, despite that they fit into the greater tapestry that Kentucky Route Zero is, you can experience the interludes by themselves, almost however you want. And the player, you know how they say, like, you get what you give into something. It's very much that in Kentucky Route Zero. And it is one of the perfect things I've ever played in video games. My first runner-up is basically the game Hades. Those levels are great. All of them have their own personalities, from the hub world all the way to outside of the underworld. All of them have their own feel, their own texture, and they almost have their own differences in immersion for the player, which is something I don't always think happens in games. I think immersion is thrown around a lot. I'm not gonna invalidate people who say they're immersed in a game's world or anything like that, because that would be rude. But I don't experience it as much as everyone else talks about it. But there was a lot going on in Hades that is just ultimately a special thing to experience. The trials in Paradise Killer are less frenetic versions of the Phoenix Wright games, but basically, that's where you see your entire case come together, and you see you could see your own flaws and what you missed, and you can ultimately tell your version of the story, and that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful kind of agency that most games sort of don't give the player. I also want to mention, I'm gonna preempt y'all because I know y'all are gonna want to give me shit. The Tower of Latria in Demon's Souls is one of the best designed levels in the history of video games. and I'm going to put it here, very much in the way that Jeff Gersman put Persona 4 Golden on his top 10 list without playing it that year, but because Persona 4 had etched a place in his heart, Demon Souls has etched that place in my heart. The
Yeah,
Tower
but
of
you
Latria.
see,
Shut
I
up.
think
The Tower of
no,
Latria.
I'm trying. I'm in your
Best
freaking
design
defense,
levels.
asshat. I'm saying
I
it
just-
works for you because you played the original, and
Yeah.
it's a remaster. So that's why
I-
it works for you. So
I apologize, Moose. I apologize.
thank you, dickhead.
I'm gonna fight you because I hate the Cthulhu motherfuckers.
That's the thing. That's the thing. That's what's so brilliant about it. Because I remember walking into the Tower of Latria for the first time, going, "Oh, none of these guys have weapon. This is not a problem. Oh no, it's a fucking problem."
They're like, I've watched some gameplay. They're basically the brain suckers from
Yeah,
Yeah.
from Alien. Oh yeah,
From Bloodborne.
yeah,
Yeah.
from Bloodborne, from Alien. They have
I-
dresses on. They sing. It's fucking creepy.
An
Oh,
episode or two ago, I called the Tower of Latria like Proto Bloodborne. That's what I called it.
oh, it
The
definitely
area.
is. It definitely is. I would say Marvelous Chester is the proto Bloodborne protagonist as well from Dark Souls 1, but that's another discussion entirely. But yes, that is my last honorable mention,
All right.
and yeah, probably not gonna be the last time Demon Souls is mentioned. Just saying.
Favorite world/game setting. First honorable mention from me, the new expansion for Warcraft. The new zones are. I'm only through 2 of the 4. They are really cool. Like, it's nice seeing completely different environments.
Now, as someone who I don't know Michaela's experience with WoW, I know Moose has experience with it.
2006.
Okay, but what is that? I mean, what does that mean?
I
Like,
played it on a friend's computer.
not you, Michaela.
Oh, sorry.
Jason. Like,
What is that?
No.
I don't
And
know
I-
how to explain that in any
And-
other way.
and like because like seeing something new, like what are the differences? I'm curious. Someone who is at peak MMO curiosity.
So-
I would like.
The new expansion revolves around these covenants, and each covenant is in a zone, and the covenants are supposed to. The short story is they're supposed to keep the peace. You're in the Shadowlands is kind of like purgatory limbo.
Okay.
They're not keeping the peace. Shit has hit the fan. But I feel like the description of each covenant matches the zones. Like the first one, they're more peaceful. They're like about the light. They're like, I don't know, learning. Like it's all bright. Then there's like this kind of hellscape where it's a warring faction. There's like literally a giant arena in the center of the zone, and it's just constant fights, like all the time. It's like that last fight in Gladiator, but all the time. Like chariots exploding, bodies, heads popping off. Like, so like, the way they did it, like the zones are more active. Like Moose can attest, there's some zones like in Warcraft, like, and I'm not talking about like because people aren't playing, like they're just nothing's going on. That's the point. Like it has nothing to do with player population. It's just the
It's a
zones.
dead area. It's just
Yeah,
like
it's a dead area. These feel more, I don't know, alive, I guess is the word for it.
Okay.
Plus, it's a whole new, a couple expansions have reused zones, but events change them. This is a whole new,
zone.
it's a whole new world.
Yeah.
Wait for it. No one? Okay.
I want to. I want to.
I don't want
But-
to.
Wanted someone to.
Don't you dare close your eyes. Okay, I did it.
Second honorable mention, the levels in Hunt Showdown. The world, rather. When you like
Yeah,
zone
no,
in,
I saw the. I remember. I've only seen the first one, but that game, that
They're just-
area has some shit.
the
going
atmosphere
on.
is just, yeah, the atmosphere is just
It's
so cool.
creepy
Like,
as fuck.
it's creepy, but it's like they did a phenomenal job with that. And My favorite world, though, Journey to the Savage Planet. All the planets, all the zones, the whole thing. It's like, I would imagine it's like what would happen when Michaela trips acid on the break and starts talking about Final Fantasy VII. No, it just,
Except
like-
with a sarcastic ass robot.
yes. No, though that the world is just so cool. Like everything's alive. Like literally, like plant life is like an eyeball looks at you like, oh, hello, don't step there. But yeah, those are my favorite world/game settings. Michaela?
A couple quick honorable mentions. Demon Souls remake, Hades, top to bottom. And then my top 3 are Ghost of Tsushima. The whole island of Tsushima is just history and fantasy come to life in a very good way. It is historic fiction. It's not 100% true to history. We know that, and it doesn't bother me. It's
Fine.
gorgeous. It is absolutely gorgeous, and it's dense, and it's the world itself. Like I said, I have problems with a lot of open worlds. Ghost of Tsushima is up there with Horizon for me as one of the best open worlds that I have personally experienced. Number 2, NYC, Miles Morales. The city is vibrant,
Hell yeah.
and the characters and the music come together to make it. I mean, it's not to say it was flat in 2018, but it feels really good in Miles, and it's because of characters like Haley. And
Fuck yes.
her street art informs the story as much as it does the environment. And the city is a character in this game, and I love it. It's a community, and you really get that sense, especially with the ending. And Spider-Man is unique in that he's a character, he's a hero who's built for his environment, so no building is wasted. It's a whole city, so it's big, but it doesn't feel unmanageably big. It is a dense, just joy to explore at New York in Miles. And then my number 1 is, you're gonna get tired of hearing this, but 7 Remake. Seeing that,
Love what you love. I'm not going to get tired of hearing it.
the thing is, 7 Remake brings to life a PS1 game that was a bunch of polygons with no voice acting, and the characters weren't to scale with the environments, and it makes it a 3D modern to scale game where everything that you had to use your imagination for in the original world, they somehow captured and brought to life, and they did it so well. Like I said, Wall Market blew my mind and head and shoulders above my highest expectations for the game. But the whole game, top to bottom, was really like that. I loved the train graveyard and the things that they did with that. And again, a lot of environmental storytelling happens. It was really just a childhood imagination brought to life. And everything about it. Like, it's a 23-year-old setting that is still so thematically relevant today with a lot of the issues that we're handling politically, with corporations, with our environment. So much of it hits home. The plate system, seeing the plate crash in this game, which you really couldn't get a sense of scope of in the original. It's just,
Can you elaborate a little bit?
I will when we get to favorite moment.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's
So
fine.
I promise I will.
Okay, that's
I will
fine.
shut up.
Shut up, actually.
Because I was gonna say something, but then I'm like, I'll
Yeah,
keep
I'm gonna
quiet
wait
then.
till we get to favorite moment. So
Okay,
I will
fine.
get there.
Fine.
But for now, I'm gonna stop talking.
So I want to clarify something. I know last week I went on a tear about Final Fantasy VII, and I want to clarify because Moose gave me some flippant laughter. At least that's how I took it. If I'm wrong, I apologize. I am never going to get tired of someone telling me why they love Final Fantasy VII or why they love any video game. What pisses me off is if you say you've never played it, and then that like dumbass Star Wars fandom kicks in. They're like, oh, but that's the best game of all time. You have to play that. It's like, no, fuck you, asshole. I'm sick of hearing that
Mhm.
more than, and like,
But-
and it seems like games from the 90s if you are no disrespect, Michaela, if you are in your 30s, it's like that's because Michaela's not. That's what people tend to crutch on in this day and age,
Yeah.
and it's just like, no, I can love video games and not care about Final Fantasy because ultimately I don't. Tails is better.
Right.
That's my opinion. I'm not gonna say you're wrong. So I
And
just
that's going to come back to like turn-based and stuff again, where
Exactly.
everybody's
Exactly.
got their preferences and what they grew up on. 7, the original 7 has never been my number one favorite game. Again, I played it when it was already a little old. I played it on my PS2.
Mhm.
It was not my first or second or third Final Fantasy, so it is one that mechanically has not aged well, visually has not aged well, but I love the characters and the story. So the barriers around that game not aging well have come down with this remake, and I'll talk more about that in favorite moments stuff later. But I was more so apologizing because something about FF7 is in my top 1 or 2 for like 80% of these categories. So
That's cool. That's cool. That's cool.
so is
And
Neo. So
I am not going to fault you for it. That none of that is invalid. I believe it's Moose's turn.
Is it?
Yes.
it is.
He forgot to write this category.
Favorite world / game setting.
No, I was like, wait a second, where am I? I'm like, where am I on my list?
This is Story Route
All right.
0, episode 48.
Oh, I'm on Earth, in North Carolina. Okay. Honorable mention is New York City.
Hell yeah.
Division 2.
Hell no.
Yeah.
But hang on.
It's an
Oh,
expansion.
that came out
this year.
Fuck. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It must be
All
allowed.
right.
Anyway,
Yeah. No, it's allowed. It's allowed. It wasn't-
it's just awesome being back in New York, and hopefully they tie both DC and New York in a little bit more for the third game to maybe button up the storyline as far as like. I have a feeling it might be the last game in the series, the next one. But anyways, so New York, it was fun running around New York again, fighting some of the old enemies from the first game, and finishing some storylines from the first game. Second one would be Japan, Ghost of Tsushima. Beautiful. Loved it. It was a lot of fun to move around in that world. See, I told y'all there were some positives for the game. Like I said, I had issues with the combat, and I think it's me, but I know a lot of people still had issues with it, like I did.
Pretty
But
world.
anyways,
Otherwise, the game is shit.
beautiful world, story's great, and they were minor issues, but anyways,
Sure.
good. And then number 1 is Hades. So it's just awesome. Like,
Yeah.
you can't. I mean, great world, great levels, great story, great just art style, artwork. Like, not only is the art style awesome, but just like it's just high end quality. Like as far as like the drawing and the animations. So, anyways, that's my number 1, and I'm good. Matt.
Okay, so we're gonna get a little weird. I'm going to start.
Awesome.
I'm going to start with Yokohama from Yakuza Like a Dragon. I really like walking around this place. I liked walking around Kamurocho for the first few parts, but it felt like super limiting where I can just, I'm at a section in the game now where I can kind of just go all throughout Yokohama, do some karaoke, scrounge for some money, Yakuza is really fucking cool. And that's an honorable mention. Next honorable mention, I'm actually putting Hades here because they're, as much as I love Hades, I feel like all of them stand apart as individual levels. So I thought giving them the shine in the level category was more appropriate. Next, the world of Blaseball. Now I realize that this game world is ultimately a fantasy sport, but the lore that happens with a season and the fact that one of the seasons culminated in a giant JRPG Dragon Quest battle instead of a Blaseball game, like, yo, this game is crazy, and I fucking love it. And they keep finding ways to either subtly or bombastically outdo themselves. And I love the fact that it is still changing at this point in time. Next is Paradise 24 from Paradise Killer. This is a beautiful neon-drenched Technicolor splendor of an island, and it's fun to wander in. It's fun to get lost in, and there's always something around. There seems to be always something around a corner that you didn't see before, or if you just turn that corner for the first time, there are rewards for the player around almost every corner. My runner-up is Moon World from Moon. This is, ultimately, if you look at it from a gameplay perspective, it looks like a less pixelated Dragon Quest world, but it is alive and vibrant in a way that most JRPGs that I can think of immediately are not, because there's a day-night cycle in it. Everyone has their routine. Sometimes routines change, and it is a fun thing to walk around in and discover stuff in. As much like Outer Wilds from last year, different things happen at different times in the clock. It's always a rewarding discovery. My favorite, however, is the Zero from Kentucky Route Zero.
I need to play that game.
It is a thing that is completely abstract and theater of the mindy, more so than getting lost in a graphical powerhouse. But going through that game, I was transported in a way that I've not been before, and I'm just so glad, as someone who's wanted to play this game since it first came out in 2013, or since the first act came out in 2013. I'm glad I waited for all 5 acts to be done, and I'm glad that the payoff remained potent. It is one of the best games I've ever played. It's gorgeous. Despite not requiring much of a PC to play. Them's my worlds.
Nice.
Nice.
And now we're at the biggest dork. And my runner-up, fine. I picked a Hades character, you jerks.
Skelly.
Yep, bingo.
I knew it. I knew it.
He's so lovable, though. He's a dork, but he's lovable. But my biggest dork is Kenji from Ghost of Tsushima.
Ooh, he's my runner-up.
I mean,
He's my
come
runner-up.
on.
As much I talked a ton of shit on Kenji.
I mean,
He's my runner-up.
I mean, he messes up a lot, but he brings the booze.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely straight out of Akira Kurosawa's Hidden Fortress.
Those are my 2 dorks. Michaela?
I have 4 runner-up. Kenji's in there.
Woo.
Kichiro, who I talked about earlier, is the scamp from Neo 2, is in there. Wedge from Final Fantasy VII. He's one of the 3 Avalanche guys. He's the chubby guy.
Wedge is from Star Wars, not Final Fantasy. God, no, I'm
No.
kidding.
And Wedge has been in more Final Fantasy games than Star Wars movies.
Probably.
And number 1 is Skelly. Because, I mean, come on. The statues at the end.
Yeah. Skelly's pretty great.
Moose?
See, sadly, I never got that far, so I don't know how dorkish that is.
Oh.
But anyways, honorable mentions.
It's dorkish. All right.
Wedge from Final Fantasy VII. Miles Morales from Spider-Man. And then my number one, Hypnos from Hades. He's a damn dork, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
He was just like such a like, he was getting high every fucking second of the day. That boy was smoking pot nonstop, but it was just hilarious. He was funny and he was extremely dorkish. So that's my list.
okay. So I have 5. Genki from Spider-Man Miles Morales. He's lovable and he's actually a wonderful foil for Miles in several cutscenes that they're in together. Next up, Kenji from Ghost of Tsushima. I'm changing the order as I do this. Then is Shinji from Paradise Killer, who basically looks like the Xenomorph, is bright blue, walks around with his dick out, and he has 4 arms. 2 of them are like this, and the other 2 are like this. Shinji rules. My number 1, Orville and Wilbur from Animal Crossing New Horizons.
Oh,
Those 2, they are the most lovable assholes in that whole game. From Orville's, straight. I think I'm remembering straight, but his straight-laced, I'm gonna be the perfect representation for Dodo Airlines, to Wilbur's like I am Tackle Perry from fucking Police Academy. Orville and Wilbur rule. Let's move on.
Favorite new character that's not in Hades. So my runner-up is Mason, the main character from West of Dead, voiced by Ron Perlman.
I mean, yeah, I should have predicted that. I should have bet. I should have made a bet.
But my favorite new character is Echo, EKO, the robot from Journey to the Savage Planet.
Okay, I should have made a bet here.
Who wouldn't want to be stranded and have a sarcastic robot that kind of sort of helps you, but has no problem if you die?
Yeah, it wouldn't be boring.
Yeah, those are the 2. Michaela?
Number 3, I had Haley from Miles Morales. Number 2, I have Yuna from Ghost. Love Yuna, and not just because Yuna is from FF10, but and number 1, I have Kasumi from Persona 5 Royal, who is not the only new character that they added to Royal, but it's the biggest one because she's the new Phantom Thief.
Nice.
And yeah, she's
Spoiler, geez, now I'm not gonna play it.
she's not Makoto, but she is a good runner-up.
Moose?
All right. Jeez, this is just insanity. Layla from Vigil, Longest Night. She's pretty cool. She's the main character, just coming back to town, trying to figure out what's going on. And then you just go on an adventure with her.
Mm-hmm.
So she's pretty cool. I enjoy the story so far. Speaking of, Matt, that update I talked about fixes the save crashes. So
good. All
we
right.
can go back to it now.
Awesome.
Honorable mention number 2 is Miles Morales, like Tim.
He's not new. He was in 2018.
But still, kiss my ass. It's my list. I do what I want.
That's fine. There you go.
Then,
that's your answer.
My number 1 is Tom Nook. Even though he is not new to the series, he's new to me. So
Okay.
I enjoyed the heck out of. I thought he was nice because he was like, I'm gonna do this deal for you, but you could pay me back whenever you want instead of, pay. You want to expand on your house? It's gonna cost you $1 million bells, but you could pay it off whatever you need to. So
Fucking
I like
shifty ass dirtbag.
he is a shifty ass dirtbag. But anyways, I like that.
That's all right. That's all right. I say least runner up, but I don't mean it pejoratively. My least runner up is Isabel from Animal Crossing. She's not new, but she's new to me. Right above her, Ichiban Kasuga from Yakuza Like a Dragon. Love that man. He rules. Right above him, Lady Love Dies, Paradise Killer. Right above her, Yuna and Masako, Ghost of Tsushima. And right above them, a tie from Spider-Man Miles Morales, Haley, and Spider-Man. Yes, I'm talking about the cat, Spider-Man. Spider-Man the cat fucking rips, and I will defend my choice with my life.
The
Move on,
cat finishes are the best part of Miles Morales.
Thank you, Michaela. Thank you. And you can just show up at Teo's Bodega, pet him whenever you want. Fucking awesome.
Favorite character in Hades? My first honorable mention, because he deserves it, Cerberus. You got to give the
Yes.
dog.
Yes.
Second, the highest motherfucker in Hades, Hypnos. He had some of the best lines. Some of those, like, wait, you just died? You just died?
Oh, natural causes got you again.
And number one, obviously, Skelly. Skelly's my boy.
Yeah, Skelly's really good.
Kayla?
All right, I couldn't do 3. I had to do 5, but I'll be quick here. And
You
this
only
might
did
be a
5?
controversial list. I made myself stay down to 5
Fuck.
because it had to be a
Next year.
list. So, number 5, I have Sisyphus, the man, the
fuck,
myth, the
Sisyphus
legend.
rules.
Sisyphus. Number 4, I have Cerberus because good boy. Number 3, I have Zag himself. Number 2, I have Meg. And number 1, I have Nyx.
Ooh, I like that.
That's not controversial at all. Nyx rules.
Nyx
I
is
feel-
great.
Nyx
she's
is
the
low key
adoptive
like the
mother.
strongest character in that
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, she is the adoptive mother who is not threatened by the biological mother. She is just about advocating for her son.
Yes.
And cool as fuck because she's the mother of night. So,
That's true. Yeah. I mean,
with the wildest hairdo on the fucking planet.
right.
Moose?
All right. So I kept my list to 3. Honorable mention number 3, or, number 3 is Hypnos. He's awesome. Loved him. He's dork. And just like you said, he's got a lot of good lines. And just like when you like appear in the river and he's just like wakes up because he's been sleeping and nodding off. So
He's
That's
just
a lot of
shocked
fun.
as shit that someone has come to say hi.
right. My number 2 is a tie because they were equally as awesome. Cerberus and Hermes. Cerberus is awesome because, obviously a good boy who doesn't love dogs. And then Hermes just has some of the funniest lines when you're out there, like getting your ass handed to you. And then he just shows up as a boon and he's just like, oh, this will help you move a little bit faster. He's got like some.
next time you're visiting that person.
Yeah, exactly. And then I had Zagreus as number 1. Just because, not only because he's the main character, but he had a good story arc and a good interaction with all the other characters in the game. So I liked him a lot. Plus, Darren Cord voiced him, so that's awesome.
Fucking A, he did. Yeah.
But that's that. Yeah.
So for me, I had the hardest fucking time trying to figure out how to even rate this. I think I wrote down every character and some of them twice, but I'm going to say my favorite is Artemis. And this is, I love Artemis. Artemis is, if Artemis is my vibe, and I love Artemis. Right behind her, Cerberus, and then right behind Cerberus, Eurydice. Those are my top 3. I think if you were to ask me this tomorrow, you would get 3 different answers. So those are what I'm going to say today. But like every character in this game is fucking gold. There's not a bad character in this game. Let's keep it going.
Moose, introduce the next category.
The style.
Changes every time.
Or star.
I only have 1 for this, and I'm going Neon Abyss.
Ooh, okay.
I just the
Yeah,
whole-
all right.
Okay.
the world, the power-ups, the bosses, the NPC, just everything.
It's a fucking package, that game.
Yeah, just
Mm-hmm.
I think last year I picked Rad. I like the neon themes.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing quite Scream style like Neon. Go ahead, Michaela.
2 honorable mentions. Hades. I love Supergiant and their the vibe they give. It's almost like a watercolor sort of. I don't even know what the fuck, but it's cool. And you can't do this category and be me and play what I've played and not mention Persona 5 Royal, because that game is just trying to be style the whole fucking time.
One of the inspirations for the category. So
Yeah. Yeah. Even the menus are sexy. Like, come on.
They are. I've never played it, but I've seen the menus and they are nice. They are really nice.
Dude, like
Um,
everything about Persona 5.
But number 1, I am actually going to give to Miles Morales for the way that they animate Miles, the way that he moves, the music that they picked, and again, that vibrant community city, the way that his New York is a little different than Pete's New York. I'm giving it to Miles.
I like that.
The
I
way
agree
he
with the.
fits in it, the way he
Yeah.
fits in that New York.
Yeah.
The biggest thing to me comes down to how they animated the way he moves.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The way he walks, the way he's in cutscenes, the way he web swings. Nailed it.
Yeah. They did a great job with it.
Like the only things, I'm sorry, but the only thing stylish about Peter Parker is when he goes, "Are you from another planet?" "Nah, I'm from Queens." Like that's really it. Moose, I believe you're up.
All right. Honorable mention number 1 is Ninth Dawn 3, which is like Terraria. It's really interesting. It's like pixel, and it's got like, it looks like it's like Paper Mario-ish, because like you're like a piece of paper moving around when you flip and stuff like that. It's just, I like the way it looks because I love Terraria and I like pixel art games.
Terraria is real good.
Yeah, but that's the first one. Second one is Vigil: The Longest Night. It's got a good dark, stylish setting. It's like, I feel like it'd be Bloodborne if it was a little bit more Dark Souls-ish. So it's got a really cool like setting to it, gothic setting. The bosses are awesome. The characters are really cool. And your main character, you have different loadouts and different outfits that you can wear, which is kind of stylish. And then number 1 is Hades. Just the whole thing, just everything, the characters, the level designs, just, everything you could possibly think of. That game is just freaking insane. So that's that.
For me, coming in at number 4, Moon Remix RPG Adventure. This game is just as off kilter as its premise, and that makes it all the more lovable. Number 3 is Hades, because Supergiant, every one of their games has style. Hades is probably the most Supergiant style. Number 2, 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim. For being as painterly as their games are, this game comes together in a way that none of their previous games have. I don't remember Odin Sphere very much, but I still have it, and I'm gonna go play it again. I will, I promise. But with like Dragon's Crown, like all of that, yes, I will, Moose. All of that comes together in a really cool Renaissance sort of way. And then this is like retro future in a way that fits and feels very snug. Number 1 is Paradise Killer for me. It is everything about it, from the neon-drenched island of Paradise 24 to the wild cast of characters to the wonderful soundtrack that is basically somewhere between Shoji Meguro, who did Persona's music, and late 70s, early 80s Japanese city pop, predominantly instrumental. It is funky, fun, and sleek in a way that most games try and go after, but fail to reach.
Favorite moment. Number 4 for me. The Ghost of Tsushima decapitation scene where he jumps over the balcony after blowgunning those 2 guards, and then the uncle opens the door and he's like, What? Bring it!
That's a good moment.
Number 3, pretty much every level in Tony Hawk. The first time I went to them, remembering like the nostalgia's there, like the music, like just every level.
I mean, that game introduced me to the Dead Kennedys, so like I did not know. I'd heard of the Dead Kennedys, but hearing Police Truck, like, it's always going to be nostalgia for me.
Number 2, because the embargo's up, Chronos Before the Ashes. Pretty much anytime I saw a Remnant, like, not reference because they're tied together, but like something I knew from Remnant and it was explained in Chronos, I'm or aha.
Wait a minute. So you're saying that's actually like worth it? And
Yes.
fuck, goddamn wallet. Anyway,
It's under 30.
it's not enough.
Number 1 though
I'm
is
building Gundams now. you don't know my pain.
number 1 though is Doom Eternal. As badass as Doomslayer is, they give him a sword, a giant like Cloud Buster size sword, and it's just like Doom 2016 where you get the BFG. You get the sword and they kind of like overcharge your ammo and they're like, just go play.
Yeah.
And you wreck stuff. Michaela?
I'll go through these kind of quick. Some of them I've sort of already mentioned. Neo 2, The Frenzied Blaze, when I realized where I was and that I was playing out the beginnings of Yuki Ona's story when it turned bad. Awesome. Number 2, when I saw Billy in the epilogue, made my day. I'm going to keep calling him Billy.
Do it.
Number 3 is, I believe, the beginning of Chapter 2 in Ghost of Tsushima, when you become the outcast, your horse gets murdered, the entire tone of the story turned on a dime, and it was awesome and horrible at the same time. Number 4, real quick, Persona 5 Royal pulls a Marvel post-credit scene, and I was like, what? Gotta wait for the rest of the story in the next game, which is probably the Muso, which has not come out of Japan yet.
That's
and then,
Scramble, right?
Yeah. Does not have a Western release date yet. Maybe the beginning of next year.
It'll be on Switch, probably.
No. And then I could have done this whole category as just FF7, but real quick, the Honeybee Inn, the dance sequence, which I already sort of talked about, Hell House, which I definitely already talked about, all of the moments between Aerith and Tifa being girlfriends, and it's awesome, and Aerith is my new ship. The Zack reveal at the end of the game, and the plate drop is kind of like the moment that I kind of want to talk about real quick, and I'll be brief. So in FF7, they decide that they, being the big bad corporation, decide to drop the plate on Sector 7, which is a city built under the plate. And you know what's coming if you've played the original game. You know that your friends in Avalanche are gonna die in the fight to defend the plate. You know Wedge is gonna die. You know Biggs is gonna die. You know Jesse is gonna die. And these are characters.
Wedge and Biggs are in Final Fantasy and Star Wars.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so these characters, which died in the first 2 hours of the game in 1997, have now been developed over hours and hours in this new exploration of Midgar with new unbefore-seen chapters. Like you go to Jessie's parents' house and you see where her father convalesced and slowly died from Mako poisoning. And you see all these things that you didn't see about them before, and you know it's going to be hard to watch them actually die because there was no cutscene. You just passed their dead bodies on the stairs originally. It was hard to watch, especially when Jessie dies. Biggs was bad. It was hard to watch Biggs die, but watching Jessie die was horrible. Horrible. She's like, she's slowly dying. Cloud is trying to comfort her, and Tifa is crying. She's like, what did I say? What did I do wrong? Why is Tifa crying? And you're like, oh my God, you sweet snowflake, stop. And I literally paused the game and sat in my chair and cried after that scene wrapped. And then you still have to go up on the plate, fight Reno and Rude, fail, and watch the plate drop on.
What is the plate?
So Final Fantasy VII, there's the poor people who live on the ground and the rich people who live on a city that's basically this big, giant city that's built halfway like into the sky on a plate, and it's 7 sectors, and they drop a whole section of the plate on the city that lives underneath it. And it's hundreds, if not thousands of people die. They're trying to evacuate the town, and you see some of that evacuation happening, and you actually get to experience some of the pre-plate chaos because you play as Aerith looking for Marlene, who's the little girl, Barrett's daughter. You get to play as Aerith going to look for her, and then if you play the original game, you know Aerith and Marlene get captured by the Turks at the end of that. So that was really cool. That was not a section that was in the original game. You didn't play as Aerith in the original game for that. Really cool to see that moment with her, and it feeds into my theory that Marlene is etc. But watching the plate, just watching that devastation, watching that destruction happen in real time was gutting. And then you live the aftermath, and it was just one of those moments that you just have to stop. You have to stop. They nailed it. That's it.
That's cool.
Biggs and Wedge are named after the character from
Star Wars.
New Hope.
Yeah, there's
I figured as much.
They're just in 23 Final Fantasy games.
Yeah.
There's more Sids. There is a Sid in FF7 as well.
Yes. Yes, Sid's in pretty much all of them.
Moose?
All right, so this is my list. I'm going to do whatever I want. So, honorable mentions. Number 1, Building My Island, Animal Crossing. Like I said, first time playing Animal Crossing. Wowed by the game. Loved it. Had a good time playing it. I highly recommend it to anybody.
Right there with you.
My second honorable mention is Hades, The End. First of all, it was weird because it's like, no, fuck you, Hades. Like, I got here, I earned this fight. Let's go. And then he's like, no, just walk on.
Oh, you're talking about the actual end.
Yeah,
Oh,
the actual
good
end.
call.
Like when
Good call.
because you have to beat it, 10 times? You have
Yeah,
to skip
something like
10
that,
times.
yeah.
Yeah.
Good
and
call.
So on the 10th time, you get to him, and he's just like, no, just go. Like,
Yeah,
he's not
forget
like, you
it.
know, you
I'm
don't
done
have
with
to.
you.
Yeah, you don't have to fight him. I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, I earned this. Let's go, buddy. But anyway, so that was, and then just, you know, the story ending of that, you know, bringing Mother home and having the whole conversation of what they're going to do to try and make, you know,
Peace with the Olympians.
peace. Just make peace with everybody. And she's still, obviously, because the game doesn't end and it keeps going, she's still working on that. Hopefully, you know, they tie in like an actual end to the storyline and you know, still allow you to keep playing the game. Maybe there will be DLC, or maybe there will be a Hades 2. The reason I said this is my list, and I'm gonna do what I want, is because number 1 is trying to escape the Unidad in Wildlands last night with Jason and Jeff. I swear. So real quick, we're doing this mission, and it's inside this base, and it's got a chain link fence going around the outside perimeter. And Jason's like, let's get in a helicopter and get up there. So we get in the helicopter, we go up, we parachute in, we all die and we get killed. So we get teleported back to like the nearest spawn point, and me and Jason just start booking it because Jeff he had something to do, so he was like lagging behind. and we're running up to the chain link fence, and Jason's like, oh, what are we gonna do? And then there's a convoy coming by, and he's like, you want to get this convoy? So we shoot the helicopter to get the convoy. The trucks just take off, and we're like, well, that's not gonna work because we got to get the convoy to actually stop and not blow it up. So I'm just sitting there, and I just turn around. I accidentally blew the fencing down with a grenade launcher. Okay, so I'm like, the fencing's down. I'm like, fencing's down. Let's go. So we're running through the airport. We're taking people out. We're like, oh, there's a surface to air missile. I'm trying to shoot it. Jeff's like, I'm right next to it. Could you not shoot that asshole? And I'm like, okay. So we're running in.
He's like, fuck you, Jeff. You gotta die.
We're running and we're going in, and Jason's the first one through the door into the base because, you know, he's all guns blazing, which is great. Me and Jeff are Jeff's like a mix between me and Jason because, like, I'm like, hang back, scope everything out, take things out slowly. Jason's like, I'm in the front door right now, let's go. And Jeff's kind of like in between. When things don't work, he's just like, let's go, guns blazing. And so we get in there and we're like shooting stuff, the Unidad, and this is like, so if you're thinking like difficulty levels, this is like a level 5 Skull Island, and so these guys are like heavily armored. It takes like, you know, 3/4 of a large clip of 50 bullets to take them down. It's insane. And so we're going in there, we're running and gunning, and they're like keep trying to come at us while we're trying to do stuff. I'm running around getting collectibles because I'm like, I'm not running back here ever again. So I'm running around getting weapon boxes, skill tier stuff. I'm getting like Kingslayer files, which is basically information files. So then we get in this big like APC, like this big truck with a big giant gun on the back, and Jason's like, let's go, we'll get in this. We had to kill a guy, so we killed the guy. We took a picture of the guy as evidence for our handler, Bowman, who is psychotic. But anyways, so we get in the APC, and Jason's driving, and I'm on the gun, and I'm like shooting at the Unidad, trying to get out of here. And Jason is like Bruce Willis in Die Hard 2, or trying to get out of the parachute. He's like, where's the fucking door? He's like, where do I go to get out of here? And we can't get out. Those two assholes are like, get out of the truck. They get out of the truck and they start bolting. Meanwhile, me getting out of the gunner seat is like a 60-second animation. And I'm just like, what is going on? Why does it take so long to get out of this goddamn truck? Anyways, I don't know if Jason knew it was taking me a while to get out of the truck, or if he was just hanging back to cover me, but like he was right there with me, you know, backing me up. So we get out of there and we're like running. We run back to the airport. There's no helicopters, no time to call in a helicopter, because you can request helicopters from the rebels to drop at any point in time, which is a whole nother story. But Jason gets in an airplane and goes to take off. I only see like one left. Jeff's bolting towards it. I'm like, I'm gonna ride with Jeff, so I go to ride with Jeff. We all take off. Jason's flying like, you know, 300 meters away from us. All of a sudden you got shot out of the sky, didn't you? By a missile. so he gets shot out of the sky. Jeff just kind of slowly banks to the left. I'm like, you going to pick him up? And he's like, no, I'm just going to see if he's okay. So we're like, Jason's like, I'm all right. He's like, I'll make it. So we're like,
we're just going to buzz the marshal.
Right. We're just going to fly over and see if he's okay. And then it's getting towards the end of the night, and we're like, the mission's over, we're done. And just like, all right, I'm ready to go to bed. He just lands us in the middle of a road at a T section, and we just get out and we're like, all right, it's done. But like, insanity in that game is just freaking awesome, and it is so much fun.
I said it last week, I'm going to say it again. This game is now my citation for people who don't believe games are art, because hearing you talk about this, Moose, is perfect.
I mean, it's hilarious. I mean, it's a good time. But that's my number one best moment.
Matt.
Okay, so I'm going to make this quick. On our previous episode, I went into my number 3 runner-up. It's a pretty great detail, but it's the Freddie Mercury moment and the father flying a plane moment in Moon. Both of those moments are personal to me for very different reasons, and the fact that they're in the same game almost within the same like brief moment in time, it's kind of perfect. Number 2 is, I'm not going to go into it, but well, okay, maybe I'm going to go into it enough, but finding Denon Agate in Paradise Killer, there was leading up to this particular thing, I was beating my head against what I was missing. And then like I said before, I turned a corner, saw a thing, followed that thing, and all of a sudden, case blown wide open, and my questions went from one drastic extreme to, wait, what the fuck? It was like watching Parasite. I was just like, wait, what the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? And yeah, this game blew my mind consistently. My number one moment is Too Late to Love You, the interlude in Kentucky Route Zero. It's an interlude in an actual chapter, I think in chapter 3 of the game. Your motley crew of individuals has come across this bar with so few patrons, but hey, the musical act has turned up to perform. The player gets to choose the lyrics to this song. I played through this moment 5 times just to try and mess with different stanzas. All of them fit. All of them are perfect. But the one that sticks with me is always my first choice. And the funny thing is, when you listen to the soundtrack and you hear Ben Babbitt's version of Too Late to Love You, he has his own set of lyrics that are in the game and you can pick, but I still sing my version when I play it. Or when I hear it in my headphones. And I was actually commenting on side quests on Twitter. They had posted about games or moments in games where you stepped outside of what is actually there and made it your own. And I was talking with the editor-in-chief there about that, and that moment is very, very impactful in that game. Them's my moments.
Favorite score. So runner-up for me is Warcraft. Since I came back, I don't think I noticed the music as much when I first played. Probably because when I first played, I was living at home. I always played the volume so low. Probably never took notice. But the lead up to the expansion, I kind of noticed the music more, and then I paid even more attention with the expansion. So now I play all the time with headphones on. 2 is Chronos. You remember the music, Matt and Moose and Michaela, in the Labyrinth, that like creepy kind of. So Chronos kind of has that throughout.
Okay.
I just thought it was well done. And final is Doom Eternal. It's that heavy metal, like gets you going. Like there's no
the blood
slowdown.
pumping.
Yeah, you're going.
Is it
like,
is bat
There's
shit?
no question. You're playing Doom when you hear the music.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Michaela?
All right. Honorable mentions: Ghost of Tsushima. You got to give it to him using the native instruments for that authenticity. Really cool. Ori 2, because if you don't like the music in Ori, I don't think you have a soul, or you might be missing at least a good piece. Number 3, Demon Souls. They re-recorded that whole thing with a live orchestra, and it is just a slow fucking clap. Holy shit. Number 2, Hades. Darren Korb, my man, killed it again. Always. Number 1.
It's the best streak in game soundtrack since Danny B.
Yeah, really though. 7 Remake. Final Fantasy 7 already had some stellar music, but this is, like, again, with the Demon Souls example, it is live, it is full, it is everything. They took Nobuo Uematsu, who is one of the greats of video game music, and evolved his songs. He only technically wrote one new song, which is the title theme, Hollow, for the remake, which they got Yosh to sing, which was cool. They brought that little bit of rock feel to it. But the music in 7 Remake is done so well. It is true to the original, but it is also modern and fuller and used effectively in the game. Like, they took 7 seconds till the end, which is the song that plays. Well, it's called 17 Seconds to the End in the remake, and it is the song that plays in the area where Sephiroth kills Aerith in the original game, and they stuck it in the end for a particular story moment, and it literally hairs standing up on the back of my neck. It is one of those moments where music affects you physically. So, just
Nice.
one of the best soundtracks I have heard in my whole life.
Bruce?
All right. Honorable mentions goes to Tsushima. Just great. Just great. Number 2 is Animal Crossing. Love those records.
Hey,
Buy,
dude,
throw them on your little stereo and change the tune when you go to
fucking
your house.
KK ska, am I right?
Just get some funk going, get some jazz, like all the good stuff. Anyway, so Animal Crossing is number 2, and number 1, of course, is Hades. Darren Korb just freaking knocking it out of the park. Like, he just does a phenomenal job. I mean, it's so good that like all of his soundtracks are on my Christmas list for my Secret Santa, for my family, for my siblings. I was just like, what am I going to put on this thing? And then I was playing Hades at the time, and I'm like, boom, there we go. All the special editions of the soundtracks on vinyl. I was like, let's rock and roll with it. But it's so good. Yeah, it's just awesome.
Matt?
I'm pretty sure the panel here could probably guess the 3 of mine in a certain order, but the actual order is my second runner-up is Hades, Darren Korb.
Boom.
For the same reasons that the music's amazing, but I also like the stylistic choices that he makes for I mean, roguelikes are essentially RPGs, and the choices he makes for this is off kilter, left of the dial, and oftentimes daring, and he never misses a note. He never chose a bad tone. It's damn near perfect. My first runner up is Paradise Killer by Epoch. I'm not as well versed in early 80s, late 70s city pop from Japan as I would like to be. I've been trying to get more familiar with it. It's really hard. But everything I have heard, this cribs from in not so much a thievery sort of way, but definitely like we're gonna take cues and do our own thing. And it is brilliant. And number 1 is Ben Babbitt, Kentucky Route Zero. The ambient sections of this are just as moving as the best moments in the game. The banjo-based folk moments are basically like a nice, perfect double middle finger fuck you to Mumford & Sons and the Lumineers, and I agree with Ben Babbitt on this one. Fuck those bands. He's never said that, but like that's the way his music makes me feel. But fuck those bands. This soundtrack is beautiful. The moments where it's sung are affecting and perfect, both in game and out of game, and it is one of the best things I've heard all year.
Favorite story. Number 3 for me, Doom Eternal. Really dig into Doom Guy's background. You get a little more lore and find out where the power comes from and why he's such a badass. 2 is Chronos. For all the questions we had in Remnant, all the answers are there in Chronos.
Fucking wallet, man.
Number 1, though, is The Last of Us Part 2. I love The Last of Us Part 2. The story from beginning to end. The range of feelings, it was a roller coaster. It was so good. Yeah, that's my number one.
Okay.
As somebody who didn't play that, I respect that because I watched the whole thing. And actually, if I had played it in my moments, I would have had Abby on the Sky Bridge as one of them. And then the burning of the island where the Scars live as another.
Yeah.
For story, honorable mentions, Miles. For like a 4-hour story or whatever the fuck it actually is when you play it out with the cutscenes. It hits some steep emotional notes at the end. It's like getting a whole bucket of freezing water thrown right in your face. Well done. Ghost of Tsushima is in there as well. Very well told tale, great villain. And you can even argue one of the uncle is up there as an antagonist as well. Hades, the story is the glory. It is the mechanic. It is the pulse, the beating heart of that game, which is unusual for a roguelike, and that's what makes it stand out so much. And number one, unsurprisingly, I'm going to have 7 Remake in here. Nobody's shocked, but it's not just Midgar that they've retold here. They have remade the game. There is a meta narrative to 7 Remake where you see these whispers, these Dementor looking guys that are in the game that were not in 7 originally, and wherever they show up is where the story is trying to deviate from the original 1997 track for the story. So it's almost like fate is trying to go off the rails. You can read it one way as the whispers are the fandom imposing their will on the directors to keep the story exactly the way it was in 97. But you can also read it as, the greater forces, are fighting against your party, literally themselves. And even, of course, Sephiroth has a hand in all of it. So it's brilliant the way that they change and evolve the story. And it's such you don't especially in a fandom like Final Fantasy VII and any Final Fantasy, you take a risk anytime you change something about that game because you are going to get pushback from the fans. And it's scary. And I don't know what's going to happen next. I think they will honor the spirit of 7. I think a lot of it's going to stay intact, but I like that there are things that are going to surprise us and continue to surprise us about the remake, because part 1, there was things I couldn't have predicted happening already. Especially with certain characters like Zack at the end, and Sephiroth, who might be Sephiroth from the future, and Aerith, who might be Aerith from the future, going back to the original story we all know and love and changing time. And I like that I don't know what will always happen, because it's a familiar story, but also a mystery and an adventure that we have to look forward to in these subsequent installments. So well done. Risks paid off.
Bruce?
All right. Honorable mention number 1, Division 2, Warlords of New York. Had a good time playing through that story and kind of finalizing the first game's storyline to an extent. Obviously opened some new doors and all that stuff. So that was a lot of fun. Trying not to spoil it for Jason, though he probably won't care about the story. He just likes to shoot shit. The second one is Maneater. It's so crazy and over the top. It's hilarious. Like the shark hunter, and like how you are a baby, and like you break free, all that stuff, and then he's hunting you down while you're trying to grow and do your thing as a predator of the waters. It's good. And it's got, I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but he was from SNL, but he's also Cyril Figgis,
Chris Parnell.
Yeah, in Archer. He is hilarious as the narrator. He's just awesome. So that's number 2. And then number 1, obviously, Hades. Just amazing. They did a great job with the source material. And I think putting in their own twist on it was just awesome. I think they did a really great job with it. I also like that even when you beat the game and keep going through, there's more character development. Obviously, I have not maxed out the story quest lines of everybody, but even beyond that, there's even more dialogue between you and Hades and you and your mother and your adopted mother, Nyx. And so it's just like, there's so much there that you don't experience if you just like go through and beat the game and then call it quits. You know, it's awesome. They just did an amazing job. So that's my number one.
Okay, so my story category this year is kind of fucked, but just bear with me. I have one honorable mention and a 4-way tie for the win. So just bear with me. My honorable mention is Paradise Killer. Ultimately, it's a whodunit. When you kind of get through it, it doesn't really provide the reward because the experience of that game is going through everything. 4-way tie is Kentucky Route Zero, Hades, Captain Tsubasa, Rise of the New Champions, and Yakuza Like a Dragon. All for different reasons. I feel like they're the best. Kentucky Route Zero is the humanist, surrealist, rooted in the world we live in type of story that we kind of need. Hades is a beautiful family tapestry drama that video games never ever really touches on in a way that includes the player experience. Captain Tsubasa is the narrative that I always have in my head when I'm playing a game like FIFA, except it writes it better and it gives you both a beginning to end narrative of the main character, and you can have your own where you start with a different team and have a different experience. And the fourth, Yakuza Like a Dragon, is the hero odyssey that most video games strive for, but touching grounded topics that exist in the world in a way that does its level best to honor and respect all the people in those roles, as well as strive for like a transcendental better. That's why they're kind of like four sides to a square. Not all of them did 100% great, but all of them did one thing great. So I hope I kept that quick enough.
Favorite indie. This one was the hardest for me. I played way too many games this year. So I'm gonna do this quick. Starting at number 9, Journey to the Savage Planet, Blood Roots, Dunk Lords by the art director for Spelunky 1.
I can't wait to play this game when I put my fucking PC together. I cannot wait.
West of Dead, Scourgebringer. Number 4, Gunfire Reborn. Number 3, Hades. Number 2, Kunai. And number 1, Neon Abyss.
Nice choices all around.
Thank you. Michaela?
My first one is an honorable mention for the same reason I can't mention Last of Us Part 2, Spiritfarer. I'm not the one who played it, my roommate is, but any chance to appreciate indie games, that one is a beautiful.
Another game I missed. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so Spiritfarer is my honorable mention. Then number 3, I'm counting it because it was the console release and it's the first time I played it, Crosscode.
That's cool.
2, I haven't finished it yet, but I'm playing it this week and I'm enjoying it and it's like the first one, so Ori, counting it as an indie because we're not getting into it. But number 1 is Hades. No contest for me, it's Hades.
Moose?
Awesome. All right, so just gonna move through these pretty quickly. Ida, ITTA, Jason.
Nice.
How's that one. I love twin stick shooters, and it's just great. I feel like it's like a boss rush game almost because you don't spend as much time in the world as you do fighting the bosses. Or well, I don't, because the bosses are crazy. Bullet Hell and a lot of fun. Resolution is a really good indie game. Played a bit of that. It kind of has some Hyper Light Drifter vibes to it.
Yeah, that game looks dope.
That's a lot of fun. This one, I wish made it on other lists, but Carry On, the reverse horror game where you play the
You're the Thing.
science experience. Yeah, You're the Thing. You're the thing from the movie The Thing, and you're just going around eating scientists and just having a ball. And it's actually a lot of fun. Vigil: The Longest Night is my third one on that list. Really good. I can't wait to get back into it now that they've patched the save crashes. Number 2 is Scourgebringer. It does have a good story, but like the roguelite aspects of it and the combat just gels really well with it. So that's number 2. And then number 1, obviously, is Hades. With a bullet for all the reasons that I've talked about previously when mentioning Hades. Just the perfect package. Hopefully they expand on it. I feel like this might be one of the first games that they've never done DLC, right? I could see them doing DLC for this.
No, they haven't.
Yeah,
I don't think
have.
They do early access, and so they are technically adding to the game all the
Yeah.
time before
So
it's released.
yeah, so this is kind of like the end game is kind of DLC, but I could see them venturing into that to like expand on the story, because I do feel, in their defense, if they did, the game is a complete package, and they could either do a Hades 2, or they can expand on Hades and have it be quote unquote a platform. You know what I mean? Like just have it be its own thing, and you get story expansions and combat expansions and all that stuff. I feel like they could go that route too. But anyways,
Like how Ed McMillan has expanded Binding of Isaac,
which
in a
is
lot of ways.
should get a new expansion next year.
I think
early
it's next year.
I
think it's
kind of
early
like
next
that they never do the same thing twice, though. All 4 of their
Yes.
games have a very
Yeah.
unique identity. So Hades
Yeah.
just makes me even more excited for their 5th game, whatever
Yes.
it is.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
a great point.
So I take it that's to me, and I'm gonna surprise y'all because it's 3 games that I've mentioned several times before. Number 3 is Paradise Killer. Number 2 is Hades, and number 1 is Kentucky Route Zero.
You did surprise me because you haven't mentioned Spelunky tonight.
Yeah.
Spelunky 2.
Yeah, I've had to have some soul searching.
There were a lot of sitting out back with a beer in hand, just thinking
Yeah,
about
I mean,
why
you know,
it didn't
so-
make my list, right?
I mean, it
Right.
didn't, like I could have sat here and I mean, Spelunky will probably still be in my 10 because I still
Mhm.
haven't made my 10 yet, and
Right.
and like
Rightfully so.
because ultimately I think that is the best designed game this year, but I tend to go with favorites.
Mhm.
And while I can look at something and say it is objectively like good and a landmark or objectively the best in, like I can look at LeBron James, he's objectively the best basketball player in the world. Is he my favorite? No. So, that's more my thing. But let's get to our final one of the night.
Favorite game club game. Number 3 for me, Crosscode. I had a lot of fun playing this, and even more fun discussing it. Number 2, Ghost of Tsushima. And number 1, Moonlighter. Yeah, I did it.
I like that. I like
Yep.
that list.
It was number 4, in case you're wondering.
Can
It barely
I,
beat out Mother Russia, please. No, I'm kidding.
I liked Mother Russia Bleeds. It has some problems, but I like Mother Russia Bleeds.
I liked it too. It was good.
That's my list. Kayla?
Number 4 is an honorable mention. I'll put Moonlighter. I didn't play it as part of Game Club, and I played it last year, but I did like it.
That's cool. It counts.
Can respect that. Yeah.
Number 3 for me is Crosscode. And it's also probably one of my favorite episodes we've recorded because that was our fireside chat was very enjoyable. Had a lot of fun.
That was a fucking great episode. That's the episode of this show that I've gone back to the most, believe it or not. So
Interesting.
I don't know if that tells you anything, but like I like that episode a lot.
I haven't gone back to it in a while. I might need to give myself a reminder. But that was fun. I enjoyed our chat. Number 2 is Ghost, which was technically my first official. And number 1 is Hades.
Yeah.
Moose.
All right. Number 3 would be Crosscode. I enjoyed, even though I didn't finish the game and join in the chat for that, I enjoyed what I was playing of the game so much that I didn't want to rush it to try and make the episode for the discussion. So that's number 3. Number 2 was Thimbleweed Park. I'm not like, that was my first like point and click adventure game that I've ever played, and I think that's a good one to start on if you ever
Really good.
If you haven't played one and you're thinking of playing one. But the story was really good. That's the only platinum I have so far this year. I went back and polished it off last weekend maybe, or the weekend before. But anyways, and then number 1 obviously is Hades with a bullet.
Okay, I'm going to be the dickhead. I deliberately left Hades off of this because it's winning too much. So
How dare you?
You can call me an asshole, but
I know what your number 1 is.
What?
I know what it is.
What?
Din.
Wrong.
Damn it.
Number three is Ghost of Tsushima. Number 2, Oberdin. Number 1 is fucking Moonlighter. Like, without a doubt. I
should have thought that.
That game stole my heart in ways that I was not ready for. And while we did play a lot of really cool games this year, I mean, Thimbleweed Park is probably the best Twin Peaks game I've played outside of Deadly Premonition 1.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't Twin Peaks.
I didn't finish Crosscode either, but that game is going places. But the 3 that like just sort of stood out to me is like, I honestly did not expect Ghost of Tsushima to be as good as it ended up being. So going into it with that, and then Oberdin being more surprising than I thought it was going to be, and then Moonlighter being even more surprising. That was why I chose it. So next week, y'all, we've got our top 10 list of
Let's
games.
Moose.
Bye.
Story Route Zero, we have some cool friends who do some cool things, and I'd like to tell you about them. Phoenix Overdrive uses the power of games and gamers to help heal sick kids through the charity Extra Life. Phoenix Overdrive fundraises for Children's Miracle Network hospitals all year, every year, and the fund culminates in a 24-hour gaming marathon. Find out more about their events and projects online via Facebook at facebook.com/Phoenix Overdrive or on Twitter and Instagram at PHX_Overdrive. You can also join the Facebook group of Pawn Stars at facebook.com/groups/PO Nation in order to share and discuss all the latest in nerd culture. They've also got a podcast, Nerd Overdrive, which you can see weekly at youtube.com/Phoenix Overdrive. You can also catch it on Facebook Live or twitch.tv/PHX_Overdrive. That podcast is also published on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Stitcher. You want merch? They got merch. Merch can be ordered from tinyurl.com/PHXOD merch, a portion of which goes to their fundraising efforts. Join the nation and be a hero to sick kids, as El Capitan Ray Osorio, Lee the Maestro, and Becky, the lovely queen of the guild, always say, #Rise Above. Thank you for listening to Story Route Zero. We hope you have enjoyed your time here as much as we've enjoyed having you. Once again, questions, concerns, complaints, pictures of pets, or favorite recipes can be sent to storyroute0@gmail.com. You can yell at us on Twitter at StoryRoute0. Rate us and review us on iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you may have found us, as it helps with discoverability. If you'd like to hit us up individually, you can find Moose Cool at Sven, that's SVHENN on Twitter, PSN, Instagram, and of course Twitch, streaming games. You can find Jason Marshall writing at obelisk.co. You can also find him on Twitter at GimpyJ with 2 Y's at the end, as well as PSN, Instagram, and Twitch. He also has his own website, whereisthepausebutton.com. You can find Michaela Crescione doing all sorts of writing at obelisk.co, as well as on Twitter at RedXMod. My name is Matthew Keel. You can find me everywhere I'd like to be at infinite_rewind. That's Twitter, that's Instagram, that's Twitch, that's PSN, and I also have my own website, infiniterewind.com. Be sure to check us out at all the places. You are always welcome, and you will always have a seat waiting for you on this ride. Thank you for listening, but for now, it's back to the real world for us. So we will see you on the next one.